There you go. Thank you. Good evening. We're here at the special meeting of the Hendersonville Board of Mayor and Aldermen on June 18, 2019. Again, this is a special meeting, which we have three things in the agenda. They're the only three things that we can discuss and deliberate about tonight. But as we typically do, we will begin with a prayer and a pledge. And please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together, and thank you for these opportunities here to lead this city. Thank you for this state and this country that you provided for us, and thank you for the wonderful opportunities that we have to serve the people who live here. And also thank you very much for the people who protect us here and the people who protect us far away. And I know that there are some of us that have family members and friends that are hurting tonight. Please look after them. Please continue to look after all of us, and somehow help us to use the wisdom you've given us so that we can shine a light on you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to accept the agenda, which should be pretty easy because we can't change it. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. Here's where we are. We are picking up with first reading of ordinance 2019-22. This is a proposed budget that I provided about a week ago. And where we are since then is we've had several amendments. And right now it is about $500,000 on the expense side, greater than the revenue side. Like I said, we've had several amendments, and I'm going to start with Alderman Sprouse to pick up where we left off. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just kind of start with a little bit of a benediction I was hoping to close the meeting with last time. But I'm going to be a little blunt. I was nervous going into the last meeting. We have 3 new members. We had a process coming into the last meeting that had differed than previous years, some of the things in different order. I look over at this table and I don't see a finance director of 112 years and an assistant who's been here a long time. And I was just a little worried what we were going to do coming in. We got a late start Tuesday night, and I just want to say thank you. I think everyone did a great job. I think that even when we disagreed, we did a good job of doing that. And we moved on to the next issue. We made some pretty big changes. We had some pretty clear discussion, pretty good votes. And I really just wanted to say that I was very happy, and I hope we can continue in the same spirit. A couple of things we do need to consider is that when we talk about deficits and when we talk about spending and things like this, the first dollar put into the budget affects the deficit as much as the last dollar we put into the budget. Same thing if we have a surplus. We had a budget that was originally presented to us that required a proposed 10-cent tax increase to cover that. And if we work through a collaborative process where we end up with all of our budgets, things that we normally had done previously in workshop or in committee meeting, we're going to have to do tonight, or we did the other night, so I think we're going to continue doing tonight. So I just want to make sure that by the end of the night that while we get through it, we have a budget that's our budget, the entire board's budget. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Alderman Brown.
All right, this is kind of, we haven't did this in a while, so I'll just start. I talked to you all last week about a pump. I hope that all that you got an email from Chief Bush about that pump. The pump that we've been using over on Glen Hill and a couple other places to pump water during the storms. That pump cost $35,000. We have rented to the tune of $14,000 already this year. I just think it would behoove us to own one and have that on hand. I would guess, and hopefully not, but I would guess in a couple years that pump will have paid for itself and we'll still have considerable use out of it. So I would ask that you appropriate $35,000 to either the fire budget or the public works budget, wherever we want that sitting at. We'll say fire budget to purchase that pump.
Do you have a line that you want to put that on? Or Robert, you want to make a suggestion?
Yeah,
We have a motion and a second on that. What was that?
I'll let Robert figure it out.
Okay.
What was the purpose?
A budget for the...
It'd be under equipment, probably $7,000 and up.
Does that make sense?
What are we purchasing?
We're purchasing a pump. a pump to help eliminate flooding.
And also, I will tell you that we can use stormwater money for that. I've talked to our representatives from
That changes
Technical
things.
Service. Mr. Robertson asked that question last week.
Okay.
And he gave me that answer yesterday that we can do that. One thing that he would recommend, which I think is good business, and I know our fire department knocks on doors and talks to people, but those 2 or 3 places that we know, and I'll have to use Mr. Sprouse's home as one of them, where you use that as a staging area, that we get an easement signed and have it on file where we can cross that property to use that pump without any problems with the city. So that was a recommendation of his that we get that done, so, thank you.
Go ahead, Robert.
That
Thank you.
would be 645, 7,000 and up.
Yes.
Were you making the amendment for stormwater? Is that what I was hearing?
It would be purchased under stormwater, but be held at the fire department. I don't know exactly how we do that here, so do we purchase it
that.
under stormwater and put it at one of the fire halls?
Absolutely.
Okay. And that would be,
It's more about the usage of the pump rather than whether it can be purchased with stormwater,
Right,
rather than
right,
where it's stored.
right. So we'd purchase it under stormwater, so I would amend that we spend $35,000 out of stormwater, and I would assume that we would store it at the fire hall. Do we have room for that? Okay.
Appreciate that. Robert, help me out with a question here. Stormwater is an enterprise fund, am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, that's 35.
So I'm looking on page 84. So would we add 35,000 under
645,
645?
page 83.
Page, okay. 35,000 there.
82.
Well, I guess both of them.
What page we on?
We're looking at page 81 and, sorry, 82, and then, well, 81 and 82 have to match up, as well as with 83. Am I saying that correctly, Robert? So if you look on page 83, line 645, actually that category is 645 of assets 7,000 and over.
Right.
We would add 35,000 there, which then back on page 82 is going to change the line,
645.
yeah, 645.
They're both, yeah, both.
Increase that by 35,000. I see a couple people in the queue. Let me write this down to make sure I have this correct, please. Alderman Brown, anything else on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Alderman Skidmore.
Yes, just briefly. I know we haven't met in Public Works with this, but we've kind of discussed it, but not officially discussed it. And I don't think that the Public Works Committee would have any opposition to this. I think it's probably appropriate and a good thing that we do this. So I support Alderman, my colleague from Ward 4, Alderman Brown's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Skidmore. Alderman Cunningham.
I just had a question, a quick question. The rental, what was the rental fee again? How much are we paying?
14,000, we rented 2 times, so it's about 7,000 each time. Correct,
Okay.
Scotty?
Okay.
I got a quote for 3,000 for the last time, but we haven't received an official bill. The first time.
Hold on. Chief Bush, can you come up here?
I'm sorry.
I get warned about this all the time, that people hear us, they see us hearing somebody, but they can't hear it. Thank you, Chief. Go ahead.
The first time we rented was in February, and it cost us right about $6,300, and that's not counting the overtime that it took. We used some staff on shift, but then we had some days because we kept that a full week. This last time, we kept it part of a week, and it was going to be around $6,000 for the full week, so I'm waiting for the bill to come. It could be anywhere from $3,500 to $4,500. So with overtime there, you're probably looking at $20,000 I bet that we spent just in the 2 incidents.
Okay, and what's the approximate life of a pump like that?
Well, hopefully, I mean, you could look at warranties and things like that. It's not going to be like a fire engine. It's not something that'll be pumping on a regular basis. We'll keep maintenance up on it, just like we service our pumps and our fire engines now. So hopefully, it'll last long past my tenure.
Okay.
As far as the shelf life, I don't know. I have not done that research. I'll be
So
glad
it
to
would be
do
a
that.
long-term, yeah. I
and get-
just want to get an idea of our return on investment.
I'd say
with
well
this.
over 20 years.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you, Alderman Cunningham.
thank you, Mayor.
You're fine. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Brown, thank you for this. Thank you for mentioning the work that the fire department has done in Ward 2 in my neighborhood. I'm going to expand a little bit on that just in case anyone thinks that we're getting any sort of special service. My house is not under threat of flood. In 2010, it got within 3 inches, and that's the worst I think you could ever see. I have neighbors who live around me who are not that fortunate.
Yep.
And last couple of big events ago, we figured out that my yard, my driveway is high ground, level ground, and a great staging area. So while this equipment's being used in my house, while the hoses are going across my yard, while they're going across the streets, they're actually servicing other people. And so I appreciate the work that they've done. If you're asking for an easement, so that should the next property owner, eventually I will not own that property, I'm prepared to offer that to the city, so the fire department could continue doing that. And I would be interested and willing to work with other residents, property owners in my ward to negotiate similar type of easements. Now, Chief, I'm going to ask you a question. It's not big. You can just say yes or no. My guess is if you have this piece of equipment and something comes up in the Public Works Department or the Parks Department or some other entity, other department in the city needs this, you would loan it to them just like the Public Works Department loaned pumps to you the first couple of times you were over.
Correct. I mean, we'll let anybody that needs to use it. So if Public Works need to do it to draft some water out of a hole that they were getting ready to work on something, obviously it's a quick introduction of how to use it. It's pretty simple. So we'd share it with anybody that needed to use it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate what you do. Appreciate you, Mr. Brown, for bringing this up. I will give a piece of advice. If anybody ever has the fire department using their house as a staging area with about 3 or 4 vehicles out in the front and about 20 guys sometimes when you have the trainees over there, tell the other members of your family so that when they drive up coming home, they don't think that something horrible has happened. So that's my piece of advice. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. Chief Bush, help me out here. Help my memory, is when we first had a situation where we decided to rent the pump, we had one for a little, did y'all have one, or what did we have before? We had borrowed one from somebody else?
No, sir, we had reached out to HUD.
Okay.
And they had a sewer system that was down, that they had one
Okay.
that was pumping to keep water maintained in the city.
Okay.
Their other one was out, broken.
Okay.
We called this time before I rented that one.
Okay.
They couldn't get back with me and give me a definitive answer. And then obviously it kept raining, and we knew the next 3 or 4 days, and that's when I came to your office.
Gotcha.
And asked to rent the second time.
Thank you for being a better memory than I am. Appreciate that. Where did we get the $35,000? Where did that figure come from?
It's a quote that we've got from a provider that provides those pumps.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll have to go out to bid for that because it's over the $2,500.
Okay.
But that was just one that we did some research on,
Okay.
found, and we'll certainly go out to bid and follow all the procedures with that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anybody else on this proposed amendment? Alderman Brown?
That is, that 35,000 was pump, hoses. I think it was ample enough to run 150 yards, if I
Correct.
remember right, something like that, so.
Correct. If needed, we could look at it and maybe try to buy some reducers and use our 4-inch hose. That's something we could do once we get it in-house and look at it. And to touch up on Mr. Sprouse's comments, if we'd have gone out the backside on Glen Hill, as you know, there's a little partial cave over there. All we've been doing is moving the water back over there and dumping it on those folks. So it's just better for us to go to higher ground and dump it in an opposite direction.
Alderman Brown, anything else?
No, sir.
Alderman Hayes?
Chief Bush, you'd mentioned earlier overtime, $20,000 approximately total for the last time you rented. Now, the overtime, that wouldn't change just because we own the.
And the 20,000 is not for the overtime, that's everything together, that's the pump, and that's
Okay.
probably manpower. This time, we had to bring some folks in off duty to operate it, because our recruits obviously are on shift now, and we don't have the advantage that we did before, where we were using some of them on a regular basis.
But the overtime doesn't make any difference in the ROI or the return on investment, it's just on the equipment.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passed unanimously. Alderman Brown?
Thank you, that'll be all.
Alderman Robertson?
Yes, yesterday the Golf Commission met, and I have some good news to inform you. As you know, this board graciously provided a line of credit to the Golf Commission or Golf Course Committee, a company that runs Country Hills, and they had to make draws on that of $60,000. The company has had a good spring, a lot of activity at the golf course, and they are going to be able to repay that $60,000 before the new fiscal year. So the city will be getting a check for $60,000. That's the good news. The bad news is I would like to offer an amendment, and I guess I need some help on the best way to achieve what we need. But the HVAC units at the clubhouse and the banquet facility are over 20 years old, and they are requiring a lot of maintenance. And so they are at the end of their life cycle. In fact, I think it's over 20 years, maybe up to 25 years. And the Golf Commission voted last night, and Alderman Hayes was there. He might want to chime in, but they voted to recommend to Boma that we allocate $60,000 for the purchase during this coming fiscal year of HVAC systems.
I will second that.
A motion and a second. Alderman Robertson, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to say too much. I might lose a vote. So I'll let it lay where it lays.
Okay. Let me get some clarification from Robert. Robert, is the best place for that to be page 32? Is that special projects, or is that capital projects, or is that assets?
I think it would be a special project.
Okay.
We already have a line item for,
Tennis court resurfacing? Is that the one?
well, for golf course overages.
Oh, sorry.
So in the event that there is a shortage with the golf course, we already budget for that. It would just make sense to either increase that line item or create one along with it in that same area.
Let me get some clarification, Alderman Robertson. What he's saying is if right now we have budgeted for $100,000 to go out and $100,000 to come in, we could add that $60,000 there, but I want everybody to understand that that would be $160,000 going out and only likely $100,000 coming back in. Or would you rather put it in another place to make that more apparent?
Well, the ordinance that we passed, was that limited to operational expenditures?
It's a really good question. Alderman Cunningham, you want to help us with that?
I can't remember. I know it was, we did a line of credit, and they could pull from it, up to $100,000. And then during their slow season, that's when they would be pulling from it. And then their busy season starts kind of in the April, May-ish timeframe where they would pay it back. So it revolves itself. I don't believe we limited what they could use it for, but I would have to check the ordinance to make sure.
Yeah. Doesn't matter to me. I kind of like to limit that $100,000 to operational, so that it's very limited. The way they can spend that line of credit is very limited to only operational and not capital projects.
Robert, does it make sense on page 32 under special projects to put it there, tennis court resurfacing and then golf course HVAC? And I'm open to any other suggestions. I'm just trying to, page 32, special projects 924.
Yeah, we could do that. That would likely be better. It would fit the need of Alderman Robertson's as well.
So would that make it part of the line of credit, or no?
Separate.
That's a wonderful thing, not to make it part of their, let's don't commingle the two.
Right.
Alderman Hayes, you still have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I had never been on this course until yesterday. I got a tour. It's 18 holes. It is beautiful. I'm not a golfer, but it makes me want to be a golfer when I got up there and got to see it. This is one of the most valuable assets for our city. It is an incredible place. It includes the buildings. Alderman Woodcock and I have conversations about it regularly. We are so grateful that it's in Ward 5. The truth is, this golfing management group does a wonderful job of managing their operating expenses. And in fact, they paid us back our equity loan, so to speak, of $60,000. They do that well. They're promoting as hard as they can. Unlike some other public courses, this course is pretty much revenue neutral for our city until you look at some of the capital expenses. And that's what oftentimes Alderman Woodcock and I are discussing, because there are times when they've had enough to pay for their own golf carts. But this is a situation where these units are approximately 25 years old. I feel like they're doing a great job of being good stewards of that operating money, and I would like for our city to just begin to step up and continue to be responsible for this incredible asset. I believe they're going to continue to do well on the operational side, but they do need help with this. And the one reason that I appreciate Alderman Robertson bringing this up and having the amendment is, we just don't want for these units that we've been kind of wiring back together and taping back and recharging to go down during the year and us not be prepared for that, so that we can, there's a wedding scheduled or maybe some type of a dinner or whatever. We want to be able to get to it quickly. So just being as prepared as possible. So I appreciate this board's support for this wonderful golf course and this asset out there. One other thing. If you look at the tax assessor's office and you look at just the closest 100 pieces of property around that golf course, those pieces of property that are privately owned probably pay approximately another, I'd have to probably put a pencil to it. There's probably several tens of thousands of dollars that are added to our city tax base because of the value of those homes being higher backing up to that golf course. Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all mentioned it. Is there anything wrong with these HVAC units now, or is it just because they're 20 years old?
Alderman Hayes or Alderman Robertson, either one? Go ahead. Alderman
Well,
Robertson.
they are reaching the end of their life, and they are requiring a lot of maintenance. If we don't put a budget item for this matter, if they do go out a month from now or 2 months from now, we will have to go through the regular process, I believe, of having 2 readings, of getting bids. So it's possible that the buildings could be without any air conditioning or heat if it's in the winter until we can approve it at the Boma meeting. I agree with you on a personal basis. I would never replace my air conditioner if it worked. But in this situation, with the age of the units and the maintenance requiring, I think it makes good sense for us to plan. Sometime during the next fiscal year, this money would be available.
And is it,
Alderman Edwards.
do you know what the typical lifespan is on these type of commercial HVAC units?
I don't.
Alderman Hayes.
Years. About 20 years, and let me just mention that they have we have a service contract on those units, and they're continually trying to change the filters and keep everything running smoothly. But they've had to recharge them several times, and one of the concerns is that a compressor will go out, and we just don't want to throw good money after bad if that happens. So,
Okay.
Alderman Edwards.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we need to be good stewards and maintain an asset that we have. That's number one. Number two, if the air conditioning, like you said, or the heat goes out and we have to act 1, 2, 3, I'm going to have, Kay's going to check for me if we can use the line of credit on a temporary basis to replace that, so we'll have the available funds ready and able to go, and then replenish that at the regular, during the regular process of it going through a committee and then going through 2 readings and then replenish that line of credit that way. That's my thoughts on it. I think we need to maybe think about that.
Oh, hold on. Alderman Hayes.
Yeah,
you're about 3 people down.
the idea is, like Alderman Robertson and Alderman Hayes said, if it goes out, we can't, we can't wait weeks and weeks to replace heating and air conditioning, especially during the busy season, because nobody's going to want to go into a hot place for a wedding or for, after golfing and that sort of thing. But we can act on it if the ordinance allows us to be able to pull those funds on an emergency basis from the line of credit, and then we go through the regular process to allocate funds and during the regular course of, the way we do a regular process.
I'll second that amendment.
Alderman Cunningham, anything else?
No, that's my amendment.
Right?
Right?
Say that for us again.
Summarize.
Okay. My summary of it is, when and if we have to replace that air conditioning and heating system, when it does finally say, I've had it, I can't operate anymore, we will have the ability to pull those funds from the line of credit, which is ample, because it'll be $100,000 now. And then we go through the regular process of allocating funds for second reading, first reading, second reading, and the usual process, and then replenish that line of credit accordingly. So we bring it back up to $100,000. So when it's needed, we have it to be able to draw on it. Because it's a revolving line of credit is what it is.
So are you asking, help me out here, so it seems like you're asking that we not go forward with this 60,000, but enable the 100,000 to include HVAC?
Correct. Well, if it allows us to do that, other than just operating costs.
I'm not going to allow this amendment, this is why, is because I think you're asking to kill this amendment. So I think what has to happen is this one would have to fail, and then you would have to make that amendment. Or the people who are
okay.
making this amendment could amend what they have said.
Okay.
Because I think your amendment is basically saying take it from 60,000 to 0. And
Yeah, and if we need, I understand, if it fails, it fails. I mean, we have to act immediately and have those funds available immediately to be able to start
Right.
the process of replacing that air conditioning and heating system.
if this amendment fails, I'll come back to you immediately.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Alderman Cunningham and Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't exactly know where this fits, but we want to spend $60,000 for HVAC units. They're going to pay us back $60,000, basically, of our money that they borrowed, and we've got a $100,000 line in there for them this year. We're not going to get that $60,000 back and in the bank till probably after July the 1st this coming year anyway. So why don't we just let them buy the air conditioners for $60,000 and it doesn't, your budget stays the same?
That would be done in this fiscal year? Or with money from this fiscal year?
Yeah.
Yeah, then I can't allow that amendment either.
And you're even. But you're even.
I get that, but the motion on the floor is the budget for the next fiscal year. You're talking about money being spent in this fiscal year. I see your point, and I think it's a good one. I think it's a good one.
Well, I just wanted to make the point. That
Yeah.
might help either vote for or against, so.
Okay.
It's our money, however we want to use our money, basically. So what was the first amendment? I don't even remember it.
Just to allocate the 60 grand,
Yeah, to add 60,000 in the parks budget,
but you don't have to do that.
provide for HVAC. And obviously, I don't think that they're going to, in the parks budget.
You could, but
No, of the following fiscal year.
credits now, just 40,000.
Alderman Robertson, you want to help? You look like you have a look of helpfulness.
Yeah, part of the building where these air conditioning units fit in, they do have wedding receptions. They have other events there from companies that bring in employees. The golf course is an asset for people that come to visit Hendersonville. They might want to play golf at Country Hills. It's the nicest public course. I'm wondering if this 60,000 could be funded from the hotel motel tax.
Here, I'll help you. I'm gonna have a conversation with Dan Haskell. He's the lobbyist for restaurants, hotels, and motels, and he's helped us with this. That's a very good question for him. What he's gonna ask is this gonna generate tourism?
So I have a dilemma here. Do I withdraw my amendment because I like Alderman Brown's amendment a lot? Because it just allows the company to keep the $60,000 and anything that is less than the $60,000 in replacing the units, they would just return to the city. So I like that amendment. I'm afraid to withdraw my own amendment, though. It kind of puts it at risk, but
Jump on out there, Eddie.
Alderman Brown, I think I feel pretty safe. Will you withdraw your second? Yeah. All right, I'll withdraw my amendment in support of Alderman Brown's idea.
Okay. And I'll say that there was no requirement that they pay that $60,000 back before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
And you're the liaison to them. Maybe you need to let them know, hold on to that. It doesn't make me feel real good, but there was no requirement that they pay it back. I mean, there's an expectation, yes, but no requirement.
Well, if I'm charged that by this board, I will. I'll be glad to call them tonight. Well, if we get out before 1.
Yeah, we may still have to have legislation. So maybe.
I gotta see. We need to look at what we passed last year.
They still have to pay back the $30,000 or $60,000 for their
I think it was
HVAC.
set up that they would pay it back.
I feel like that's our responsibility.
Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, it's just
Okay, Alderman Roberts, anything else on this? Right now, we still have an amendment on the table. You're next, Alderman.
So-
Are you saying no?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can't hear the conversation going on down there with Mr. Bradley. So would they have to pay back the $60,000 for the?
We'd need to look at what legislation was passed. That was last year. I don't remember what it says. I don't think anybody else does either. We just need to take a look at that. I think it's supposed to be repaid. That's how we've done them in the past.
Yeah.
We might not have had a particular time, but there was the expectation, I thought.
Okay, well, why don't I stick with my motion, but agree at the second reading? We'll have some time to do some research, and we may be able to amend that to Alderman Brown's motion. So I'll keep my motion on the table just for the first reading.
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for bringing this to us. I think we need to be a little careful, though, when we start talking about the differences between operation and maintenance and property. This is a facility that we own. I believe that the line of credit that we have given them have really been towards operations. For them to do basic maintenance to greens and sand traps, to purchase or lease new golf carts, or to purchase new golf carts, those are more of an operations type thing. In this situation, we're like the landlord renting to ourselves, our own entity. So when you have a question of replacing an air conditioning unit, that's different than replacing a filter. A filter is an operational cost. But if you're replacing the entire unit, I think that isn't something that should go against a line of credit they use for operations. It's us fulfilling our obligation as the owner of the property. And I think that between our Parks Department, our Public Works Department, our Finance Department, we have the professionals on staff who can determine whether or not it's economically the best choice to replace a unit. Because I could tell you, we've been in situations to where we've had air conditioning go out in other city facilities, and it's one thing to tell the employees, you can wear shorts to work this day. It's completely different when you have 500 people coming for a wedding or a corporate golf outing or sometimes a large event, and to say, we're sorry that it's 90 degrees inside this facility. What those people are going to end up doing is they're going to end up either canceling the event or they're going to want a full refund for the cost of it. So I appreciate your amendment. I think that we should support it as it is, just so we can take care of a facility that we own, maintain its functionality and ability to generate revenue that then will be used to pay back the loan that comes to the city. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. Alderman Brown.
All right, forget everything I said just a minute ago. It just muddied the waters. I agree. Let's go ahead and fix it. And here's why, one reason I really do agree on it. I don't want to spend any more money than we have to, but I've had an air conditioner go out and haven't been able to get a guy to it for 3 days, and it was 95 degrees. And seriously, it was 95 degrees in July. So that was at my house. I can imagine if you've got a wedding scheduled or a reception for 150 people, what that would be. But these units were on a list, and I want to talk about that list just a second. Andy, you may have to help, but when I was liaison, we asked that Jerry Fentress and Chip at that time, I think, make a annual or a semi-annual trip through that facility and list anything that needed to be done or upgraded within the next 6 months, year or so. Those air conditioners have been on that list for over 4 years. So, and let me remind you about Fire Hall 2, who had a leaky roof and rust in the girders and stuff. So I think it's prudent we spend that money. It's simply taking care of an asset. You wouldn't let that go in your house. So, thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. All those in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye. When Kay calls your name, those opposed, please say no.
Bolt. Brown.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Cunningham.
Aye.
Edwards. Hayes.
Aye.
Petrelli.
Yes.
Robertson.
Aye.
Skidmore.
Aye.
Sprouse.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Woodcock. Clary.
No. That passes 12 to 1. Alderman Brown.
I would like to see if that list, Mr. Gilly, if that has been done in the last year to 18 months, and if that walkthrough hasn't been done, yes, I'm curious, because there were some other issues on that list since we're talking about taking care of assets. I'm sorry, this had nothing to do with the budget, but it could affect the budget.
Yesterday, Alderman Hayes can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'm used to it. That's just my.
yesterday at the Golf Commission meeting, the management group stated that they resubmitted that list with their budget for this year. And I didn't see that, so that came under, I guess, in the finance committee, the finance director, no, you wouldn't know that probably, maybe you do, I don't know, but right now the golf course is under the finance director. But they said yesterday at that meeting that they submitted that list with their budget in the back of it yesterday. We talked about it. I know irrigation repair is still on the list. That has not
been on there for years.
That's been on there. It's coming at some point. HVAC, and then they've gone now 2 years past the normal cycle for golf carts, and they're not doing that again this year. And to me, the concern about that is the $30,000 that they put every year towards golf carts to pay the city back, basically pay ourselves back. It's so convoluted. But that $30,000 has now kind of been absorbed in operating expenses for 2 years. So what happens next year when, you know, you're asked to allocate $300,000 for new golf carts, knowing that they're going to pay back $30,000 every time, which has been done at least twice, maybe 3 times, I don't know. But that list is in their budget packet somewhere, I think.
Alderman Brown.
Robert has it, okay.
You got it.
I'd like to see that list again, because I haven't seen it, just to compare what was on it 4 years ago to is now. Because I know there's a lot of stuff we haven't fixed. Irrigation's one of them.
One thing I know they fixed was the roof.
The roof.
Yeah.
We did painting, we did windows, we did some leaks, and we made sure, I guess, we also, somebody from your department was supposed to be attending those meetings.
That has been happening. Either myself or Keith Bruce has been there every time.
Okay.
I cannot answer about the walkthrough, the semi-annual walkthrough from
Could you make sure
Public
that
Works.
that happens to inform this board exactly where we're at on everything on that building out there?
I can
Somehow, some
get
way.
with our Public Works Director to have Mr. Fentress go do that.
You're the man.
Thank you, sir.
I know we did it last fall, that Jerry, I think, and Trace went out there last fall. I don't know if it's happened in the spring yet.
We'll find out.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to go back to the pump. Since we're purchasing, we put in the budget for the pump, what are we taking out of the budget for the rental of the pump?
Chief Bush.
That's good. He needs that.
That's coming from money in my current budget right now that we're actually in. As things have kind of unfolded throughout the year with finance, I was kind of stingy with my money. So I was kind of holding on to some stuff because I didn't really know exactly where my numbers were at. And so I had money to cover it. I've talked that over with the mayor and with Mr. Manning, and we've got enough to cover it both times.
Oh, yeah, for this year. But what funding did you put in the new budget for the rental?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't put any at all?
No, ma'am. Because it was going to be try to purchase one was the conversation I had with a couple of y'all. And if that went through, otherwise we were just going to keep trying to rent. And, you know, we'd have found the money, whatever we
Okay.
needed to do to cover for that.
All right.
Even if I had to come back and ask for money
I
from y'all.
was just trying to find some dollars here,
I understand.
Scotty.
I certainly understand.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Robert, you got something to say, go ahead.
I don't hide them very well.
I wanted to add a note that the fire's rent or lease budget last year was $37,300, and it is zero, as Mr. Bush was commenting
deal.
on. So
Thanks,
You can even
Robert.
swap.
You're
Thank you,
right
Robert.
on it.
Alderman Cunningham?
Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Brown?
Nothing. Thank you, Mayor.
We have nobody in the queue. Alderman Campbell?
Chairman, I'd like to bring up a conversation we had this evening in stormwater, in capital projects regarding stormwater utility. We wanted to allocate $300,000 from the stormwater utility to go ahead and move forward with East Drive and Indian Lake intersection, the pipe replacement there. We've already got an estimate. Is Marshall here? I'm not sure if he is. If you want to come up and talk about it a little bit, Marshall. But it's $300,000 was the estimate for that. And that would be stormwater utility because it is one of the busiest intersections in Hendersonville and it floods often. And I'd like to make a motion that we allocate those funds from the stormwater utility to start that project.
We've got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Marshall.
No, as Alderman Campbell pointed out, I think there was a project listed in the I think you mentioned the CIP, capital improvements booklet that outlined that project, and staff will have to revisit to make sure that estimate is still valid. But certainly we'll revisit that, confirm that number, and then proceed forward and update Public Works Committee and Capital Projects Committee as we progress.
All right, sir.
Yep.
Alderman Campbell?
I just know it's an intersection. We have the stormwater utility, and people have been talking about, let's get some things going. This is in the middle of, it's an intersection in the middle of Ward 2, and it's right at Ward 2 and Ward 4. And it's a very busy intersection, and it really can use some, if it floods right there, and then you flood on Cherokee, you've got to go out the back way through Bonita Parkway to get off that peninsula at that point. And that's everyone out there on that part of the peninsula. There's only, so many ways you can go at that point. Sir?
Alderman Campbell, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Marshall, help me out here. I know that there's been some engineering done on that problem already.
Right. I don't know what level has been done, but we'll certainly find that out and report back.
If what's the likelihood that if we don't pass this, that project is going to be done anyway because it falls in the priorities for this?
I think it probably will. I think my thought is that by you taking this action, it would just kind of maybe make it more of a priority than it already is.
Yes, sir. That's my intention.
But if it also means that if something else, if we find out through engineering and through other means that something else is a higher priority, we're not going to do that other higher priority. We're going to take $300,000 and it won't be spent on something else. It'll be spent on this regardless of the prioritization?
Potentially.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
okay. I appreciate that. Okay, Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. I'd like to appreciate Mr. Campbell for his motion, Mr. Brown for his second. This is one that it's huge. I mean, we have and the $300 estimate came from your office, Mayor, from your email, so if we need to adjust that anyway, we can do that on second reading. But this is an issue where major thoroughfare, properties that have regular water intrusion, and a factor that was probably not considered when the original study was done, the city has made a $3 million and a private group has made a $1 million investment right at this intersection. And we had conversation in capital projects tonight about development plans for property formerly known as Beatty Farm, or currently known as Beatty Farm. And I would hate for grants, private donations, city dollars to go into the development of that property and damage come because of flooding, or work having to be undone because we finally get to the drainage work on this. I would rather the drainage be fixed in that area before additional investment is made in property development, park development.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Alderman Robertson. Thank you, Alderman Campbell.
Marshall, I just want to ask, how much money do we have to spend this next fiscal year in the stormwater account?
The current fiscal year, the one coming up?
The one coming up.
It'll be $2.5 million every year, every fiscal year.
Did we collect $2.5 million this fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
Have we spent $2.5 million?
No, sir.
So will that money roll over into potential
yes
projects for this?
Yes, sir. It'll continue to build. Whatever we don't spend will roll over to the next year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, my problem with this is that we are deciding which projects to do, not necessarily based on the engineering around the prioritization, based on other factors. And there's opportunity cost here, is that if other projects are a higher priority and serve more people, they may not get done as early as this one will. This is a very worthwhile project, there's no doubt about it, but I would rather leave it to our staff and our engineers and the consultants to determine how best to spend that money, come back to us with a list like we did with roads, like we've done to some extent with drainage, and then go through the regular process of the Public Works Committee and have them give us some input on that and determine which projects make the most sense to do, not just a project based on other criteria. Alderman Skidmore.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with the mayor, and I kind of expressed it tonight in capital projects on the committee. I felt that the Public Works Committee needed to really start off on this, because stormwater is, I don't know any other way to say it, but it's kind of our baby in Public Works. I mean, we've worked this thing out. We've spent two and a half years hashing this thing out tirelessly and effortlessly, trying to get the thing done. And I, as chairman of Public Works, it's my responsibility, at least that I see it, at least that it has to come before Public Works and then transfer it on to capital, if there's a positive vote, to capital projects. But the mayor's correct on this issue, and this is one that where we have, and this was talked about in capital projects, where we have a significant amount of work already lined up for this, and then during the middle of the game, we decide that although that corner or that four-way stop, no doubt about it, needs help, needs work. It desperately does. But so do these other people too, you know. And so I'm kind of, I voiced my reservation in capital projects on how the functionality of this whole thing was going to work. And I have to say it again tonight at the board. I'm not against the project at all. I'm always for projects that help people. This project will, but at the same time, we have a list of other people in this whole city that are in the older sections of town to the newer sections of town that have problems as well. So I would rather have this before, if there is a positive vote out of it, go into, the mayor's right, going into capital projects, that it should start in Public Works. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Brown.
I think Alderman Bolt was before me, but I'll go first.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I just went away.
You just went away?
Yeah.
Okay. It gets worse with age, buddy. Couple things. You know, East Drive has flooded and flooded and flooded for years. And I know that we've had other issues in the city, and we still have other issues in the city, and we can't put magic dust out there and make them all go away at one time. But I do know that we passed stormwater utility. We brought in about $2.5 million from starting in October this past year. Starting in October of the year we're in now, we'll be working on another $2.5 million. And if my education at Union Township Elementary School is correct, that's about $5 million. Okay? I think to this point, we've spent about $300,000 now, that first 2.5. Am I pretty close, Robert? Okay. We started collecting that in October. This is June. We've spent $300,000 now, the first 2.5. I don't know that I need to make any more points right there, okay? But here's a point I will say about list and priorities. 3 years ago, we spent $250,000 on a pavement management system. There was a list come out a few months ago with 15 streets that need paved on it. Some of them were in Ward 4. Some of them were not. Some of them were in 2. Some of them were in 1. But that list of 15 roads did not follow that pavement management system. So if we're going to follow systems and we're going to follow priorities the way the engineers and those that do the research for us lined out, then we need to do it all the time on all the projects. Now, that's just in my humble opinion. Now, in my other humble opinion is $300,000 out of a $5 million budget shows this community that we're getting something done. And we are getting some things done. Now, we're getting a lot of $5,000, $10,000 build a berm and divert some water stuff done. But we don't have one project out there that is huge that anybody in Ward 1, 4, 5, 6, any place can see being done. I think we need to put this on the books. We need to get it done. And it needs to be done as soon as it can. We already have some engineering done on it, so it's just a fact of following through with it. Either that or we'll go to committee again, we'll go to capital projects again, we'll keep talking again, and we'll be sitting here next year talking about another $2.5 million coming in. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Bolt.
Yeah, I clearly can't say it as well as Alderman Brown did, but people like to point out whenever I vote different than they like is that I was appointed. And as somebody that's appointed and coming as a non-politician, when I hear Alderman Skidmore talk about a process that we have to go through, I appreciate that it is necessary, but it's incredibly painfully slow. And things need to be sped up. And if we're not actually following a process on every single situation, this is obviously a high priority. Have only spent $300,000. We've got $5 million coming in the not too distant future. Spend it, move it, and then move on. So I would be in agreement.
Alderman Bolt, thank you. Alderman Cunningham.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm not going to preach anymore like I did a week ago on the stormwater utility that we haven't spent very little of it. I hear about committees, lists, more committees, more discussion, more people looking at things, and nothing gets done, or very little gets done. I know, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody on this board. Please, believe me. I have to learn government runs slow, but I didn't realize it ran this slow. The community needs to see that we are doing something with the $72 a year that we charged them last year. Soon to be another $2.5 million in the kitty in another 6 months. And believe me, I don't mean any disrespect. But if you're going to follow a process, follow it. If you're not going to follow a process, the priority gets the worm. And let's move ahead with this. This may be the first of many projects that we're going to do. I know we've done some small projects. I know we've done one in our ward, in Ward 3, which I'm very appreciative of. And I just want to get things done here. Please, 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 please. Thanks.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
I think Alderman Campbell was in the queue before me.
He is, but he's already spoken on this item, so
Did you speak?
Since he's already spoken on this item, you get to go.
Okay, well, what I want to say is that I don't think we just need to spend this money just to spend it. I know we have it, and just as a show of goodwill to the citizens, I think we should go through the proper channels, and with all due respect to my colleagues, I think we're basing this kind of on anecdotal evidence as opposed to engineering proof, as opposed to a list that the engineers put out as to priorities. So I think we should go through the proper channels. I know it's painstaking, and I know anything with government is usually inefficient, but we're not running a business here. Unfortunately, this is government, and I think we should go through the proper channels and follow the recommendations of the engineers. That's all I have to say.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
I'm in the queue for not for this amendment, for the main.
Okay. Do me a favor, hit your button right now if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Alderman Robertson.
Yes, I've been schooled several times that there is a process and that we need to follow the process. Alderman Campbell, I trust you that this project is needed, and I will assure you that if the motion fails, that as a member of the Public Works Committee, we will iron this out post haste. So I'm going to follow the lead of my chairman, Chairman Skidmore, and vote against this because I believe that we need to follow the process as I've been schooled through the committee process.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Waters.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with my Public Works Director. I think he and I was on the Public Works Committee back when all this started. I don't know how much money we paid the organization for the paving report we got. I don't know how much we paid the company that did the stormwater report for us. But I have to agree with him and also with Alderman Brown. Let's stick to what they gave us as far as the need. All the wards need work on roads and drainage. But I have to concur with Alderman Skidmore. Let's stay focused on what the program calls for. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Waters, thank you. Alderman Brown.
One more point.
Have you spoken on this already? I'm sorry.
Have I?
I don't think you have.
On what?
On this amendment.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to put you at the back of the queue then. Sorry. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Manning, could you give me the numbers so far that we have left in the budget for stormwater utility for the rest of this fiscal year?
This fiscal year?
You know, this budget that we've collected that we still have waiting to be utilized. Thank you.
The unencumbered balance would be $2,261,000.
Thank you. Now then, in October of this coming year, this new budget year, we're looking to start receiving $2.5 million again, correct, sir?
That's correct.
So, $4.7 million is what we're looking at to have accumulated in the stormwater utility fund. And I realize we, correct, if you take the money we still have right now, if we haven't touched any of it, and you add it to the 2.5, that's 4.7.
Right.
Now then, moving forward, Marshall, I know that Chip Moore, our former director, had the engineering study done on that, and it was always pointed out to me that when the property developed right there, the Beatty Farm, that intersection would be worked on at that point. They would make it part of the planning and say, hey, we'll make the developer fix this. Well, we removed that. The city now owns that property, so now it's on us to fix that because we realized for years we've talked about that intersection and it being an expensive project of approximately, and we had an engineering study that come back and said it'd be approximately $300,000, correct?
I need to confirm that, but I believe that's the case.
I recall the conversation myself, so.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's
I think
replace
that-
all the drain pipes in that particular intersection. There's 4 of them there, I believe. And it's to take the water coming down from the top of the hill, which, the top of the property up there, which is Beatty Farms Hill, and also the new subdivision up on that hill. It comes right down to that intersection, headed to the lake. I mean, it all runs downhill. So therefore, I realize when we talk about lists and things of this nature, this project's been on the books for quite a long time, and it's been thought of, well, it's an expensive project because the city, prior to the stormwater utility, would only spend about $250,000 to $500,000 a year if you're lucky on drainage issues. We never wanted to tackle large drainage issues, and now we have the ability to tackle large drainage issues. And I'm still going to hold firm with my motion to move forward with $300,000 for this particular stormwater utility appropriation, since we have $4.7 million within this next fiscal year available to utilize for that. Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you, sir. Does my heart good to hear everyone talk about process. Really do. I'm a process guy. Let me give you a few little key points here. This is not a Public Works Committee project. It's over $250,000. It falls under the purview of the Capital Projects Committee. That's why it's a magic number. It's being considered by Capital Projects, was discussed in Capital Projects, and not in Public Works. That's an important part. Second thing we have to consider is the stormwater utility gave us two tools we had not previously had. One is it gave us the ability to go off the public right-of-way and do work on private property with public funds. We told people, if you give us this money that we charge you every year, we can now go and work on projects. And I enjoy the benefit of that, of being able to go to people who 3 years ago I told them we couldn't do something to help it, and now it's being fixed because of that one change. It also gives us another tool. It gives us a dedicated revenue stream to handle large projects. This is a project that was on the books prior to the creation of the Stormwater Utility District. I know because the first alderman to address this was Hamilton Frost when that property was in Ward 5. That property has not been in Ward 5 since the reapportionment in 2001. This is work that we did not need the stormwater utility to do because it's all on the right-of-way. We needed the funds. And it was very hard to do a multi-$100,000 project in one spot instead of doing 10, 15 other projects in this spot. It's very unfortunate when we hear say, well, there's work that needs to be done in older areas of town. Because that seems to pit neighbor versus neighborhood, neighbor versus neighbor, neighborhood versus neighborhood. But if we are going to talk about older parts of town, the properties in this area are over 40 years old, probably or very closer to 50 years old than 40 years old. In large part being affected by newer developments, and when we say new developers, houses that were built in the 80s upstream. We are following the process. The process is we collect the money's been collected. We set a priority list. This project is on the priority list. It's high rated on the priority list. We have an estimate for what the work's going to cost. To quote the email received from the mayor, I appreciate his help on this. The barge study considered this situation and determined that it needs major engineering and reconstruction. The estimated cost is $300,000. And it's gone through a committee. The committee has recommended it. The committee that has jurisdiction in this, with it being a capital project. If anything, in the last year, the investment the city has made and will continue to make on the adjoining property makes it even more important that we do this work. The $300,000 number is very important. Not only is it high enough that it's a capital project, but it's low enough that it's not going to make a very significant hit in the overall health of the fund. I would feel dishonest if we get lapped on $2 million of collection. When they get the next statement and it says, here's your $72 for stormwater utility, and they say, well, what'd you get me for it last year? I know this is Public Works baby. I know that they've been rocking it, but sooner or later you got to put the baby to bed. And what I'd like to do is to have one or two big projects every year that we know are going to be taken care of, along with the scores, if not hundreds, of smaller projects that we do along the way. We can't spend $10,000 here, $10,000 there, and then at the end of the day, we still don't have the $300,000 to do the project that we didn't have in 2001. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going back to just talking about procedures, list, order of things being done. Approximately this time last year, I don't remember exactly, June, July, August, around that time, I think 3 of you were not up here. One of you stood before us advocating on behalf of your community about getting a road done. And I think you'll remember who that is. Most of us on this board advocated to get that road done. It's called Drake Creek Road. We moved $300,000 around from different pots of money in order to get that road done. And Drake's Creek Road was not on the list to be done at that time. It was on the list, but it was down here. So I'll go back again and say to those folks that Drake Creek Road runs through, I appreciate your sentiment down there a while ago, but obviously you forgot that we appropriated money to do a road for you that wasn't listed correctly. I appreciate sentiment to my left from the Public Works Chairman. But Mark, you led the cry for Drake's Creek Road, and we followed you with it. So I still go back and say, we need to do this project. I don't care where it's at on the list. The money's there. It needs to be done. Thank you.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. Marshall, if I remember correctly, the funds used for Drake's Creek were from a developer and it had to be used for Drake's Creek.
I need to check, but I don't know that we use developer funds for paving. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have, but I think a decision was made not to use those funds.
Okay. Well, that's why I asked the question, so I'm sorry if y'all jumping on me for asking the question. Before it gets going too far, I was the one who made the suggestion and wrote the ordinance and resolution moving the capital projects limit from $25,000 to $250,000. And it was never to replace or circumvent the Public Works Committee. So if a project is over $250,000, it does not bypass Public Works. As the person who wrote that, I just want to make that clear before it keeps getting repeated and becomes fact. Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Where is this on the priority list of things to be done?
The drainage projects?
Yeah, I mean.
I know it's on the list. I'm not sure where it falls within the.
Anybody else know?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. If you have a copy.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Do you have something? Help me out, Alderman Sprouse. Can you answer the question?
I have a soft copy, but I don't have enough bandwidth to be able to open it up.
Gotcha. Okay. Alderman Edwards.
I mean, if I can see that it's on the, top 3 or something, I may change my position. I think Alderman Sprouse and Brown have made some compelling arguments. I'd just like to see where that is.
Sure. I can certainly provide that by the next meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you. I may vote yes for it, and then on the second.
Okay. Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Skidmore, we'll come back to Alderman Sprouse.
Well, if he was doing a point of information, that overrides me, and I'll go. You sure?
Go ahead, I'll give you time to pull the document.
A couple of things. One, the argument that is used from some of my colleagues, my distinguished colleagues that I serve with, that you cannot compare drainage projects to paving projects. That involved a school. Children are the most precious thing that we have, a commodity that we have in this community. And just like I said, probably off the key, I would do it again, and I would champion that project again at any time, because it was a necessary move, and it's been a good move by this city. And I commend the aldermen for doing what they did. The issue's real clear here, but before, one of my other colleagues asked a colleague, which I was surprised that he asked this question, but I'm going to go ahead and let's go a little bit more to it. The question was asked how much money that we had left, and that we hadn't spent so much. And this may go to finance instead of Public Works. When did we start collecting this? This year, right? Right. So.
Hold on. Alderman, Robert, can you help us with this?
When did we start collecting it?
We started collecting in October.
Okay, of October, and then the end day is, because that's what we have to look at. It's not, you've answered the question the way that I want you to go. Let me finish, and then you can do what you want, Scott, okay? So we started collecting it in October. Then and it's over with in what, February, is that right?
That's correct.
So in essence, we actually start using that in the end of February. We don't start using that in October, right?
We could.
But we didn't.
But we didn't. You're
Thank
right.
you. You've answered the question right. So that's why that there are so, well, no, I mean, it was true. He wasn't trying to, be the be the politician. He was just told it straight out. We didn't use the money. That's why we had so much left, and a lot of that money was earmarked for other projects already, like possible employees. We had possible trucks we were going to have to use, and we continue, and we are still going to do that back. So a lot of that money was already earmarked places to go, and projects were already developed by this board to do the work. And so the problem that we have here is tonight we have that has not, and by the way, and correct me if I'm not wrong, the projects, now this goes to the Public Works Director, and I thank you. I don't have any other questions for you.
Okay.
And where did those projects originate? Out of stormwater drainage, right? And then it runs through Public Works, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so we looked at them. Now, I can tell this board right now, as chairman of Public Works, and as an alderman from Ward 1, I can tell you right now that I have not said anything about it, and I'm not going to. I mean, I am now, but I'm not going to press it. I'm going to go a different route when it comes to these projects. But I can guarantee you that I've got 5 projects in Ward 1 for drainage that's going to cost in excess of $300,000, I can guarantee you to get fixed. So what would happen if I say, okay, Board of Mayor and Aldermen, surprise, I've got 5 projects that's coming to capital projects. Where are you going to put them? And I do it at their next committee meeting. What are we going to do? That I can guarantee you that will supersede what they're having and their problem that they have down there at the 4-way. Now, I understand that we have a problem there, but I don't want people in our community with the money that we've got not getting their taxpayers spent on their own problem. And I'm telling you, if we set this precedent by not going through the process, and nothing may change, but at least we can always go back to each of our wards and say, hey, this is how we did it. They weren't either better than you guys. They went through the same process as you did, and this is what the result is. I want something transparent, I want something fair, and I want something equitable. And that stormwater drainage ordinance is. And the moment we start deviating from this, and there'll be ones on this board that will say, well, Mark, we're not deviating this, and here's why. But I'm telling you, in the long run, we are, and it's going to look bad. But there are people that are in desperate need of correction because their houses are underwater. So, I would ask that the ones that are on the board are on the fence on this to go ahead and vote with me in the negative on this, and let's go through the process before we start adding projects the way we're doing here at budget time. I think it's wrong. I don't think it's right. If it's not right for this board, it's certainly not right for the voting public or the taxpayers of this community. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Skidmore, thank you. Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. Just as a point of order, I have to follow up with some comments. If you look at Chapter 9 of the Municipal Code, Section 1-901, it defines capital projects. Mr. Woodcock may have changed the threshold for the dollar amount for capital projects, but nothing in his ordinance that he proposed and we passed changed the definition of capital projects or the responsibility of the Capital Projects Committee to manage the construction of projects now over $250,000 and other projects as assigned by the mayor. I don't want to get into a certain type of match about who has jurisdiction back and forth, but I will say this. If you have 5 issues of that cost in Ward 1, bring them to capital projects. We will have the same discussion. It's been over a year since we approved the Stormwater Utility District. It's been a significant amount of time since we've asked for engineering for estimates and prioritization. This property has demonstrated itself as being not only on the list, but through repeated floodings in just the past few weeks, and a $4 million public-private investment adjoining this project, which will be ultimately millions more dollars of public money invested into that. I agree that we should always go through the process. This has gone through the process. I'm not a big fan often of the board designating specific projects, but I supported the project in Ward 6 when we did move $300,000 to fund a project that was not on any list. But after a year, and after millions of dollars collected, and not one large drainage project accomplished, not even one large drainage project started, and in just a few weeks, we're going to approve folks starting to get bills again for the second round. I think this is an extraordinary circumstance. I think it is. I think that it follows process. It takes a ball that has been dropped, but by the appropriate committee and the appropriate process, and will establish a precedence by the public can trust that we will be able to address 1, 2, 3, maybe more large projects every year as we continue to do the $5,000, the $10,000 projects. You have to get the big ones in first if you're ever going to have them fit into the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marshall, have we purchased any large equipment for the stormwater utility?
Yes, we have.
How much did we spend for that piece of equipment?
Is it a little over $100,000?
110, I think it was, for like a track hoe, is that it?
That's correct.
So we do have one large piece of equipment already purchased, so that's great. Have we hired any employees as of yet for the stormwater
We have
outside of
three-
our normal engineers?
Well, we have currently 3 employees in that stormwater group, but outside that and the use of consultants, we have not hired any additional staff.
We haven't hired a crew to actually go outside and put a shovel in the ground or rake or use the track hoe, and I mean, as in stormwater utility employees that are
Right.
specifically, hey, I've got a job for the city of Hendersonville and I'm gonna be working on drainage ditches for the next 30 years.
Right, correct. We have not done that. What we have done is we try to utilize contractors and consultants to kind of be an extension of our staff to perform those functions right now.
And I understand the engineering part of it. I understand that completely. We're working, utilizing them outside people to help us along.
Right.
But here again, this is something that's already had an engineering study done on it, from what I understand. We know that it was going to cost $300,000. We know it was a large project. We know that we were planning on the new property when the Beatty Farm developed. Whoever developed that would be the one to carry that load for us, because we were going to say, hey, need to fix that intersection right over there in the drainage issues, because it floods out this whole intersection and all those people downstream right there. They all get flooded pretty good.
Right.
So I just think it's time to spend $300,000 out of the $2.26 million that we have available to go along with the 2.5 coming up pretty soon. And I think we need to just get a bunch of these projects moving forward, guys and ladies and gentlemen. And I just think it's time to start moving, let people see us getting the job done instead of sitting here studying it and having an engineer study and looking at it and talking about it for another year. We're right at, moving into the second year here. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. We don't know this project is going to cost $300,000. That was part of a study that looked at, I want to say, 60 or 70 projects, and that was a preliminary estimate. We won't know how much the project will cost until it's engineered, and even then, that would be an estimate, which I anticipate will be more than $300,000. We've got several projects that are being engineered right now. We actually stopped the engineering on one of them because it's about 60% done as far as engineering. And at that point, we knew we can go forward. We can go ahead and put a shovel in the ground. We can go forward with that. But this one, we don't know what it will cost. Like I said, the $300,000 was a preliminary estimate about a year and a half ago, and we'll find out. We'll have a better estimate once it's engineered. We can't move forward with a project until we have plans, at least not a project this size, until we have plans on how to put it together. Alderman Robertson.
Well, I think enough has been said about this. I think we're all ready to vote. I support this project based upon what I've heard from the alderman. So I want you to know that I support this and that as a member of Public Works, we will bring this up. It's not unusual for an item to have to go through more than one committee. It may need to go also through Finance Committee, but Alderman Campbell, since we don't know where this project fits on the list, the priority list, which, by the way, the Drakes Creek Road was on the list. I think it was like 15th, I think it was 15th. So it was on the list, and I appreciate what this board did in that. I think it improved the safety. So I'm in favor of this project. I just would like to ask Alderman Campbell if you would wait to let us see where it is on the priority list, and if it's way down on the priority list that we can that you can renew this amendment at the second reading. Give us a little time to think about this and to see where it fits on the project list and think about it a little more. So I would ask for your consideration to just postpone this to the second reading.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Campbell?
I would like to go ahead and call for the vote this evening, and if we need to adjust it at the second reading, we can.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Robertson?
No comments.
Alderman Hayes?
I'm willing to support this project right now. I want for those other aldermen who have the flooding houses to please, those people that were here last week and showed us pictures of all their flooded houses, please, if there's anything we can do to move those projects forward, I want to help them. I desperately want to help them. Thank you.
Alderman Hayes, thank you. Alderman Campbell?
Yes, in regards to flooding houses, we had an update tonight in our capital projects meeting, hazard mitigation grant. We've applied for $1.2 million for the Sabley Court area. That's been a big issue, and we're trying to get those funds to do an 80-20 buy of those properties over there to help with that. And that's been something that's been worked on for Mr. Waters, Mr. Skidmore, and myself. We're members of Public Works. That's been ongoing for 4 or 5 years. So we're trying. So we're trying to utilize the funds that are available to help reduce the city's cost. So thank you. I just want to point that out to you since you asked that question.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls her name. Those against, please say no.
Woodcock? Waters? No. Sprouse?
Aye.
Skidmore?
No.
Robertson?
No.
Petrelli?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Bolt?
No. That passes 8-5. Alderman Campbell?
Oh, thank you. I'm fine. Thank you, sir. I
Okay,
appreciate it.
appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone.
Alderman Petrelli?
Thank you, Mayor. So I am again going to ask for support on the Rockland Road project. This one is a little bit different than the previous project that we just discussed, in that those of you who went to the capital projects meeting tonight know this has been in the queue for a while. There was a discussion regarding could stormwater management funds be used for the project. That has never been mentioned to me before. I've been advocating for this project since last year. And if we do not show due diligence and some effort on this road, we could lose it. So I want to mention a couple of things that kind of also go along with the discussion that was just had on East Drive. And I appreciate the efforts of everybody, of the aldermen on the different committees, and I appreciate what our different departments are doing, because I know everybody is overloaded and working very hard. But in my tenure, we have spent a lot of time on studies that have later come to pass that we no longer use. For instance, we spent $250,000 on a pavement management program. And the purpose of that was to take quote-unquote politics out of the pavement plan so that roads were ranked in a certain way and they were paved in a way that the worst roads got paved first. Well, that's fantastic, but we're no longer doing that, okay? So I would love to have had that $250,000 from 3 years ago and put that towards Rockland Road now. So if we're not going to take the advisory of our $250,000 consultants and not implement those works, I suggest we just stop hiring consultants, because that's a lot of money that I know Ward 1 could use. On August 28th of last year, as Mr. Boyd sent out today, and he was correct at the last meeting, we did, as a board, unanimously pass a resolution that we were going to support the extension of this project. And if you talk to different folks in Public Works and on the board and hearsay and this and that, Rockland Road goes back 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years. All I know is the road has not been improved since I was a child, and I'm 50 years old. If we don't show due diligence, some type of work, and quite frankly, I do not mind how it's done, whether we budget for it through our budgeting process, which originally Mr. Boyd had put $300,000 in the budget, and it was removed, and I understand that, because the mayor's, trying to do the best he can with this tight budget. Last week, I offered to whittle it down to $250,000, and I'll remind everybody, again, 3 years ago, we wasted $250,000 on a pavement management study that we're no longer following or using. But it was also suggested in capital projects that the money come from stormwater management. So I just would appreciate the board's support on dedication of funds towards this road tonight, because Ward 1 needs an answer. I have a list of the major projects that Public Works has been able to do in Ward 1 in the last fiscal year, and I'm just going to be honest with you, it's not a lot. And I know Alderman Sprouse says he doesn't like to pit ward against wards, and that's not what this is about, but Ward 1 needs some work. I see 5 Ward 1 residents sitting in here right now, one of them shaking his head. We need work in Ward, there's several in the back. It's not a competition, but there has been massive amounts of work done in Ward 6 in the 3 years since I've been on. And the other wards, and I would just appreciate some support on Ward 1, especially Rockland Road. So I'm going to again amend back into the budget that we allocate $250,000 to start showing road work improvements, yet to be determined by the Public Works Department and Public Works Committee in Ward 1.
We have a motion and a second. I need y'all to hold on one second here. I need Kay to look up something.
No, to
hold on one second, please.
Rockland Road, to designate it towards the Rockland Road project. If we don't come up with a plan this year and execute some type of project on Rockland Road, we are at risk, like we determined last week, of losing the matching money. Marshall, can you just explain that briefly again, because everybody couldn't be at capital projects, how that works?
Absolutely. We've, as I explained, capital projects, we have an organization called NPO GNRC that administers federal funds to the city. And we have money already allocated for this project, and it's been allocated for several years. And the way that works is we entered into a contract with TDOT to begin the project. It's an 80-20 split to where we're responsible for 20% of the cost. The federal government is responsible for 80% of that cost, and it's all administered through the TDOT organization. So once we start that process, we're committing ourselves to finishing that project. And so, of course, if a $5 million project would cost a little less than $1 million for the 20% portion, but that's kind of I don't know if I left something out, but that's kind of a brief explanation of how that works. So.
Alderman Petrelli?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marshall. Jamie, I'm sorry, Mayor Claire, did you have a question you were having Kay look into?
No, we're fine. We found it. Thank you. Anything else, Alderman Petrelli?
No, I've made a motion to add that back into the budget. I need Alderman Brown up here.
No, it's already been seconded. It's been seconded.
Yes, sir.
And, I mean, again, I'm open to options if it can be worked through stormwater management, but I need a commitment tonight of how it's going to be done, because I'm not willing to lose this project.
Right, and to kind of speak to that a little bit, is every project, there's always a portion of a project that involves drainage.
Sure.
And we could go through and kind of evaluate that and assign a kind of a percentage of that to try to help figure out how much we could use of stormwater funds for that project, if that
Okay.
makes sense. I mean, I think that would be that seems reasonable, just kind of thinking about it out loud, but we could certainly kind of attack it that way. And
So
try to
what would be
utilize-
the best way to get this project committed tonight? What's your recommendation? Because right now, I'm saying put $250,000 back in the
Right,
budget.
I think if you made a commitment of some, $250,000, $300,000, whatever it is, we would then begin the process to start that project.
Okay.
And then we would, contact TDOT and enter into an agreement, long-term to finish the project, and then we'd start, similar to our other TDOT projects, we'd, start the process and, get it going.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Robertson. Thank you, Alderman Petrelli.
I'm sorry to ask so many questions. I'm inquisitive tonight. Marshall, if we allocate $250,000, will any of that be, will the city be reimbursed any of that amount?
Yes, sir. Of the 250, we'd be reimbursed 80% of that. And the reason that number, that's an estimate. It could, we may need $300,000, $400,000, but my hope is that, whatever we agree to, that I could come back and as we're reimbursed that 80%, I could come back and ask for an appropriation to take that money and put it back into the project, if that makes sense.
And that refund would take place whether it's general fund or stormwater fund?
Yeah, it does not matter. Yeah.
So what is the minimum amount of money that we need to allocate for this project to continue the support from the federal and state?
Well, for the first year, it's going to be in the range of $250,000, $300,000, or maybe a little bit more. But as we move along the project, when we have to buy a property, build the project, that number will increase proportionately based on how much it costs to buy the property and build the project. So, the first year and maybe year and a half, the numbers will be small comparatively speaking. But as we move along, the number will grow.
Yeah,
Roberts, if I can interject and help answer that question a little bit.
Okay.
Part of the problem, the reason we don't know the total cost, because I think this was estimated at a $10 to $12 million project about 10 years ago, which includes a bridge over Gallatin Road, over the railroad tracks, and Rockland Road continuing to Center Point Road. So that's still in this project right now. Although I think for the most part, GNRC MPO has agreed that the bridge over the railroad tracks is out. However, once we start funding it, if we don't go through the whole process of funding our portion of it with engineering, acquisition, and construction, if we don't continue throughout the whole thing, we have to pay back the 80%.
Right.
And right now, we're discussing a project that includes the going over the railroad tracks and the road that goes all the way to Center Point Road. So that's sort of the reason it's hard to answer all those questions.
So once the first domino falls, all of them have got to continue to be falling. Is that right? Year after year until the project is finished?
That's correct.
We can't ask for a one-year delay if the revenues fall. I mean, we got to stay on the track.
That's correct. And kind of add on to what the mayor is saying, we'd have to kind of reevaluate our priorities for that project and kind of right-size the project to meet our needs.
What is the value?
Hold on, Alderman Peck.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Alderman Robertson.
Will this project also help alleviate traffic on Gallatin Road, Main Street?
Of course. There's many people that use this as an alternative to Main Street. So I think, the more we improve it, I think the more people would use it.
Yeah, I'm going to support this project because I believe that we don't need to. I mean, this has been evidently debated for years on Boma, and it's a capital project. I committed to Alderman Campbell that I was going to support capital projects as much as I could. I understand that by approving this, that next year I may not be able to vote for employee raises. I mean, if the revenues fall, we're hooked on this, and we're going to have to make tough decisions moving forward to continue our commitment. And I know that everyone on this board understands that this may require some tough decisions year 2, 3, 4 until we pay it off. But I'm going to support, because it is a capital project, and I think it will improve the city, not only Ward 1, but I think it'll improve the entire city and may also lead for some further development in that area. So I'm going to support this motion amendment. Thank you.
Alderman Robertson,
thank
thank you.
you.
Alderman Cunningham.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Just have a few questions. To redesign this so that we eliminate that bridge or the trestle, was it trestle? Would that pretty much reduce that cost quite a bit, or?
Yes, that's a substantial cost. And
How could we have, when could we have that estimated cost?
we would have to, we could take the time now to kind of delve into the details before we even start the process to kind of find out what we think the cost would be, and do a preliminary budget. But certainly we would, look at kind of I guess we'd look at it from a fresh perspective and just make sure that what we're doing is no more than what we need, I guess.
Okay, so could we have a report at our next capital projects meeting about the estimated cost on that?
It'd be from a high level cost. I think we could do that.
An estimated, we're not talking about nitty-gritty details, getting in the weeds, but a new estimated cost.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, what's $250,000 going to buy us? Well,
right now, we're anticipating to be able to start the survey, environmental document, the design work, those initial steps that we always take with
engineering.
every project. Right. The same steps we do for all our projects with TDOT, we have to go through the same process, but that it would start that process.
Okay, and then as I understood you from capital projects, we would get, as we spent that money, we get reimbursed from TDOT between 30 to 60 days. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The 80% portion. We pay.
Right, we were going to get 80% back, so
Right.
actually, we're just spending 20% of that 250,000 or 300,000.
That's
So if we
correct.
go with the 300, we'll actually be spending 60,000 of
Right.
the city's money.
Right.
And some of that we may be able to take from this, not take, but spend from the stormwater utility.
That's correct.
If it's appropriate. Okay. I would like to amend my friend's, what did you do, an amendment? Motion. Instead of 250, I'd rather go with the 300.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. So, Alderman Brown, pretty much the amendment to the amendment is the same as the amendment. With the difference. Absolutely. Let me update you, though. It's now we're taking the deficit from 560,000 to 860. Alderman Brown. I'm sorry, Alderman Cunningham, were you finished?
Well, it's not, it's the 20% that we're taking the deficit with, it's the 60,000, not the 300,000.
Let me go back to something Marshall said here a second ago, is that when they reimburse that money, typically
Right.
we return to the board and ask it to be reappropriated.
We count that as, I think the way we sometimes set it up is that we count that as revenue, with the 80% coming back to us.
So it gets added back to the general fund?
I believe that's correct. Is that? No, the
The reimbursement from TDOT.
Right, that counts as revenue back.
Okay, so the net effect of a $300,000 spend on this is $60,000 to the general fund. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing, I guess that I'd ask is, would it be?
So do we have to do two separate line items, like one for 60,000 and one for 200, I'm sorry, was 240,000? Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
I think Robert can answer us for
I mean, it's not going to affect the budget by 300,000 is my point. It's going to affect the budget by 60,000. Because we're only spending 60,000 out of the general fund, 20%.
Sorry, you would need the expense account for the entire amount, though.
Yeah, and then the other part goes into a revenue stream, is that correct?
It does, yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we're affecting the budget by 60,000 net.
Right.
Thank you.
What line should we add the revenue in?
It would likely be its own, a new account.
Its own line.
Yes.
Okay.
You'll have to track it separately.
Okay.
Just for each project, for each grant, you'll have to track each revenue.
So I think we're amending your amendment to the amendment. I need you to withdraw your amendment instead of making it 300,000. Let's go back to Alderman Petrelli. So what I would like for her to ask, and feel free to change this as you wish, is that we add $300,000 to the expenses, but also add, help me with the math, 240,000 to the revenue.
I just want to make a motion for $300,000 for Rockland Road, to add that to the budget. And then however y'all want to word that for the 80-20 split.
Okay. Whatever she said, is that? Okay. So, Robert, what I'm saying is that, because I want to make sure people understand the revenues there as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You're right, it would go, but I'm trying to think,
At some point, we need to amend the revenue line.
right. If we anticipate to receive it within the same period that we spend.
Marcia, do you feel confident that we will receive the 80% back within the same period?
Yes, sir. I'd expect we to get most of that, if not all back during the fiscal year.
Okay.
And it's also dependent on how fast we can spend it when we get it back. But.
Okay. So, Alderman Petrelli, are you okay with the amendment being that we're going to spend $300,000 for the purpose of Rockland Road and increase our revenue from Rockland Road from GNRC/MPO by addition to 240,000? Am I making sense, Robert?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, if our finance director is fine with that, then I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's from two.
Okay. Alderman Cunningham, anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Brown.
Thanks, Mayor. Let's see how I want to word this. The $300,000, along with the signature on a contract, commits us to carry on with the Rockland Road project.
Well, the signature, yes, it does, yeah. And that well, the extension on the contract, we're agreeing to finish the project.
We're agreeing to go.
Yes.
We're going to keep right on going to Center Point Road one of these days. That $300,000, is that sent directly to TDOT, or is that held in the bank?
No, like, for example, we'll start the process, we'll pay consultants to do the work, we'll get invoiced, from those consultants, and then we'll pay them, and then turn around and take that package of information submitted to TDOT for reimbursement, and they'll give us back 80% of that amount.
So I just want people to understand, that doesn't go to TDOT. That is actually spent on people doing work to get Rockland Road moving forward.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't know what I said.
Marshall Parkman, sir, you said right-size the project. When we were talking about a moment ago about the bridge going from Rockland Road to New Shackle Island, is that what we're talking about, right-size the project to eliminate that bridge?
Right, we'd have to look at it. We'd look at everything again.
So they'd let us adjust the original plan, is what we're saying?
Correct. And like, for example, we would take the money that we have kind of allotted for the total project cost and make sure that we were staying within budget and the scope to kind of satisfy that requirement.
And having said that, the Center Point Road extension, where it comes up to the top of the hill and veers off to the left there is a Y, would that be something we would want to maybe stub in and wait for later development to come back?
Yes.
And allow the people who develop the property over there to
that is
build
correct.
that portion of the road versus the city taking on that?
That is part of the city's major thoroughfare plan, and
Yes.
as Mr. Free pointed out in the capital projects, is like we do with a lot of our roads, as that property develops, then those individuals would be required to
Build
build
the road.
their portion of the road. So, yeah, that's one way we could do it.
Yes, sir.
And so we wouldn't have to we wouldn't have to pay for it if we did that.
So basically, we would be going from Main Street right there in front of the Speedway, exit 3 basically, at Rockland Road, Main Street, all the way to Imperial Boulevard. That's what we're committing for.
That's what you're correct.
Correct.
Right.
I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page
Yeah.
as to, and speaking about stormwater utility, at the bridge there across the creek in the low spot before you get up to the entrance to the park at Rockland Road Park there, would we be looking at possibly upsizing that box culvert there as a stormwater utility phase of that project to help move it along as?
It could be,
Okay.
right, now that could be a portion of the project that we upgrade to accommodate, whatever improvements are necessary.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to have a few more pointed out to everyone. Thank you.
Alderman Campbell, thank you. Alderman Petrelli.
If there's no more questions, I'd love to call a question. I appreciate the board's support on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Petrelli. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Kate calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Bolt,
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Petrelli, Robertson, Skidmore,
Aye.
Sprouse,
Aye.
Waters, Woodcock, Clary.
No, that passes 12 to 1. Alderman Petrelli, anything else? No, sir. Okay. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few comments about our pilot recycling. And that is on page 61 of the budget, line 793. I have the two bids that we received originally from Green Village and also from Republic. Now, I understand Republic is not going to want to do recycling anymore, if I'm correct on that. The Republic bid calls for, wait a minute, that's Green Village, sorry. The Republic bid was $6 per home per month. So we have 818 homes in the pilot program, times that's $4,908 per month that we're spending, times 12 months, or $58,896 a year. If we're spending $58,896 a year per the bid from Republic that we signed and accepted, why did we, in the line item for the FY actual of 2018, did we spend $82,724, which would be a difference of, and I'm thinking that might be startup or some kind of cost.
We had to buy the carts for the residents.
The carts, okay?
Yeah.
So the difference was $23,000 that we provided for the carts, okay? Okay, that answers my number one question. Number two question was, if we're paying Republic $58,896 for the year, and then I have the bid for Green Village at $66,000, but that's just for 6 months, why are we trying to spend $165,000 for recycling for the new budget, for the pilot program? Have we received bids for this from other vendors for $165,000 for 818 homes? That was my first question. Could anybody answer that?
That's probably me.
Yeah. Either way, the money that was in there the previous year, I moved it forward the same amount, not knowing, what we had planned to do with recycling.
So we have no idea if this is too high or too low or anywhere in between.
Well, certainly for the pilot program, it may be a little, for the current program, it's probably a little high. But.
Well, we only spent $58,000.
Right.
And we're budgeting $165,000 because we're certainly not going to give them, or is Republic going to take back these bins, or
No,
do we pay for the bins?
The city purchased the
Well,
bins.
we're not going to take them back, so we don't have any startup costs, right?
Correct, for the pilot program. We're just simply going to extend the pilot program.
Well, who's going to do the pilot program? Do we know?
Well, that's what is currently advertised in the RFP, is to extend the pilot program for 3 months.
So have we received that yet? The
The bids are
RFP?
due back in Tuesday of next week.
Okay, so that's kind of an unknown right now, right?
Correct.
Okay. This is expensive proposition. And I spoke to Jason earlier today about his bid of $13.50 per household, or it was for 6 months at $66,258, because I guess initially we were just going to have that pilot program for 6 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. And those are all my questions for now and my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, I've got 3 or 4 questions, and Marshall, you and I talked about this today, and I think you cleared up a lot of mud for me, but I think there's still a little sediment in the water. That's a Sprouse analogy there, but I didn't use a kid, so you liked that there. I'm glad he liked that. The way I figure that on 800 homes is $17.18 a month for $165,000. You just said we was going to extend it 3 months?
Right, the idea, whether it's 3 months or 6, the idea was to extend it long enough for us to collectively make a decision about citywide recycling.
But we don't know how much those 3 months will cost. We're still getting bids on this.
Right.
Those 3, that's monthly, so if those 3 months, you know, what's your best guess?
For
monthly service for recycling?
For like citywide?
We had a bid, no.
Or
Right
just
now-
for the pilot program?
Well, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We haven't set an RFP out for citywide, so Ms. Cunningham was talking a minute ago that we had a
Yeah.
bid that's probably 18 months, 2 years old for $66,000
Right.
for 6 months period. So
If I had
would
to
you-
guess, I'd probably, like $15 a month. I feel like the $6 may be a little low for what it is now, but,
Okay. So you think 15 bucks a month?
Yes,
Think
sir.
that would be a fair price? Do you have any idea? $12,000. No,
Hold
that's
on
a
one-
pilot program.
Go ahead, Marshall.
right, I mean, 15, it'd be 30, for 3 months, it'd be $36,000, but just certainly for 1 month, it'd be 12.
Okay, here's second part B. In 3 months, do you think you can RFP and get back what you need to get back to make a decision if we're going to do, or bring that decision to us where we can make a decision we're going to do citywide?
Yes, sir.
90 days is, you think 90 days is ample?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what's the price for that roughly, Robert, 36?
Yeah, 36,000 for 3 months.
Of course, it depends on the bids.
Right, and
Yeah.
it's all contingent on the bid, right.
Hold on one second, we'll get to you.
You want to answer my question? Can she answer my question?
It sounds like she's offering, so let's try. give it a
Okay,
try.
so she.
Thank you again, Mayor.
Mayor says we can, so
I spoke with Jason today, and he said that he would do the recycling. This was a verbal conversation.
Hold on one second. We have closed bids on this. Okay?
Oh,
Yeah. It is out for bid right now.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
All right, 36 might be a little bit high.
okay.
Oh, okay.
We'll just kind of ad lib that.
Sorry,
So-
I apologize.
I'd rather be high
you're
than
fine.
low. I'd rather be high than low in this business.
Okay,
So $36,000 you think would get us 90 days. It's $48,000 would give us 120 days.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to offer an amendment. I'd like to take line item 793. Move that to $48,000 instead of $165,000. I'm on page 61. Well, I'm not done yet. You may not want to. Don't jump too quick. I'm waiting till the boys get done talking out there, so, because they may need to answer a question. Okay, $48,000, that'll give you 120 days approximately of recycling for these 800 homes we have on a pilot program, if your numbers are
Yes, sir.
fair. Okay, I understand that might be a little bit less, could possibly be a little bit more. We might have to rob $2,000, $3,000 from somebody. We'll figure that out. I'll give you 120 days. During that 120-day period, we'll RFP for citywide recycling. That'll come back to us, and we'll make a decision whether we want to do that or not.
Yes, sir.
And here's the second part of that. 120 days is it. If we don't decide to go citywide, we're done.
So help me out. So two parts of this motion is that we're going to drop the expense from 165,000 to 48,000 for 4 months, and that's it.
That's it.
That money can't be spent outside of the first 4 months.
But city needs 120 days to get the RFP in, so that
Okay.
approximately will pay for that 120 days.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else on this?
No, sir.
Let me add a little bit. So, are you with us, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. You understand what we're talking about here?
I do.
Okay, okay. Just a little bit of clarification here, is that once we put together, we can't raise our trash fee. This has to do with our residential disposal service. So there likely won't be any money if we lower the trash fee accordingly. There won't be any money in the trash fee to fund this for the additional 8 months if we decide to. We'll have to pull that out of the general fund. And I don't know if you realize that or not, but I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, I do realize that.
Okay.
I'm just offering $48,000 for 120 days until that decision is made.
Okay. Do you have a question for Robert, or?
Nope.
If not, I'm going to go to Alderman
I'm good if
Strauss.
they're good.
Okay. Alderman, did you catch that, Robert?
I did. I'm trying to figure out it would have to come from, right. But the amount would have to come from the trash fund instead, rather than.
There'd be a portion, the $48,000 would have to come out of the trash fee that would go out on property tax bills in October.
Right.
I'm assuming that we would lower the residential disposal fee accordingly.
Okay.
And maybe that's an assumption I shouldn't make. Okay, Alderman
Yeah.
Strauss?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you have to do that.
I just want to make sure I understand what our get is for the money. We did the pilot program for a set period of time, for a set cost, so we could collect data on participation, volumes that would be collected. And if I remember from our last meeting, the conversation then is that basically we've collected all that data that we could collect. So we're continuing the program on a very limited basis for a very limited portion of the community. I think the phrase that kept being used at the last meeting was all or none. I mean, we're really now to the time. If we've tested and we've spent money on the test and we got all the data we can get from it, why should we spend any more time or any more money testing? I think it's time to make the decision instead of spending just a little. I know it's just a little bit, but I'd rather go ahead and make a decision than just string this along a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Alderman Brown.
I was one that threw that term out there, all or none, about 3 different times, and I'm still an all or none guy. But I'm trying to offer a compromise here because there were some folks that wanted to carry it out for a while, didn't want to cut it off that quick and get some more information. So I'm kind of good either way, but I figured I would offer that compromise and see where that went. Basically, that's where I'm at.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Strauss.
Another measure you could always use is how much people like it is if you cut it off. I mean, I hate to say that, but No, I don't. But you'll find out how much people use it if they don't have it. Because if they, at the end of the, start of the next budget year, we don't have it, and nobody calls and complains, they must not care that much about it. But if they do, we really know what the interest is in it, and we can use that as a gauge for an all or none decision.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I
Alderman
think
Strauss.
so.
Alderman Bolt.
Yeah, I was one of the ones that wanted to continue with the pilot program as is, and really for two reasons. One, kind of vague maybe, but just make sure the interest for recycling continues, and there's still the pressure of, hey, we've got to see this through within the next 4 months, and then we can decide on it. The other one is highly successful. You know, this was voted on long before I was an alderman, and it's been coming to my neighborhood, and everybody loves it. It's very successful. And, you know, my wife uses it a lot. And so we end up a lot more than just what our container is. So I think there'd be a lot of people that would be upset if it stopped, but I understand if the board wants to. Thank you.
Alderman Bolt, thank you. Alderman Robertson, I turned off your light a second ago. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment, and keep in mind the amendment has two parts. One is to reduce the cost from $165,000 to $48,000, and the other part is that this money is only spent for the first 4 months of the fiscal year. All those in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. When Kate calls your name, those opposed, please say no.
Bolt. Oh, aye. Woodcock, aye. Waters. Waters.
Alderman Waters.
Sprouse. Skidmore.
I'll go ahead with the game.
Robertson.
Support the compromise.
Petrelli.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Edwards. Cunningham.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Bolt.
Aye.
Clary.
Aye, that's unanimous.
$117,000.
Yeah. That affects the disposal fund. Yeah, yeah. We are back on the main motion. That motion affected our disposal fund. Alderman Sprouse.
Call for a 5-minute break.
We have a motion for a 5-minute break. And a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Take a 5-minute break. Chris, thank you. Thank you all for that break. We are back on the main motion. That's the first reading of ordinance 2019-22. This is an ordinance to adopt a city budget and to appropriate funds for the fiscal year of 2019-2020. 2020. All those in favor of accepting, Alderman Sprouse.
I think because of the late hour and some additional items, we've done some really good work here, but I'm going to give notice that I'd like to have conversation, if not one of the first conversations on the second reading, talking about restoring the COLA for our employees. I think it's important that the value of the pay plan and what we did in investing the time and work and effort that we did to make sure that we're paying a competitive and fair wage to our employees continues, and that we don't have to worry about down the road losing people for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sprouse. Alderman Brown.
Not sure that I necessarily want to wait till the second reading.
Okay.
I mean, it's 19 minutes till 10. We're used to 1 o'clock now.
No, don't even talk.
Oh, I'm just saying we're used to it. I didn't say we were going there for. I'd like to ask Mr. Voss a question, which I've already asked before, but I'd like to ask again. And we've already talked about studies and research and those things tonight already, so I'm going to go back and talk about another study. It was a pay study that was completed not long ago. We're considering a merit raise here, and which is totally separate from COLA. So I believe COLA nationally is 2.8% this year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Voss.
Thank you, Mr. Voss.
Peter?
Mr. Voss, would you like to confirm what Alderman Cunningham said?
That's great, man.
Yes, that is correct.
I didn't know you was a ventriloquist.
You've been
You pitched that
pretty
a
good.
long way. Ms. Cunningham, feel free to jump in. It's good to laugh. We're all laughing a little bit tonight, and that's good. In keeping with our pay study, as our professional, and this is an on-the-spot question, do you feel that we need to give some type of reasonable COLA? Now, I'm not saying necessarily 2.8%, but something above the merit to stay in line with our pay study that we spend a lot of money getting done.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a good answer. Or, as Mr. Skidmore said a while ago, you answered that correctly. I don't remember who you was talking to, but no.
Clearly not a politician. He just
That's,
said yes.
that's probably all the question I want to ask you, though, so it was one word yes, but, I don't know. I think there's a starting, I feel the same way, that we've had a pay study. I know it will cost us more money, but I think probably the most absolute valuable thing we have in this city is our employees. And I know all of them are not perfect all the time, but I think what I know, they work pretty hard. I see our PD working hard, our fire department working hard. I see public works out working hard. Peter, I believe you even work hard, you know. So I just feel like we need to try to keep some pace with that. So I'm going to offer up a 1.5% COLA on top of merit.
We have a motion and a second. I need Robert's doing two things at once right here.
Got it. Good job.
If you want to go ahead and continue speaking, Alderman Brown, that's fine.
That's pretty well it. I don't feel like, you know, that we can go 2.8 and 2.5, but I do think we need to try to keep pace. So I'll start the conversation and 1.5% raise. If anybody wants to talk about, add to it or take away, I'm willing to listen. So there's a starting point.
Alderman Brown, thank you. Alderman Strauss.
I'd like to offer an amendment. Thank you for having this discussion. One of the things we have to, one of the benefits for being here for a while is that I have unfortunately been on the receiving end of complaints, valid complaints, when a COLA is not applied, how it continues to follow an employee throughout the remainder of their career with the city. That shorting someone a percentage point isn't the same as saying, I'll borrow you $100 and give it to you tomorrow. That through compounding, the difference between the 2.8 and the 1.5 would actually increase every year after this as we adjust the employees. And they would never catch up to what they missed with the COLA. So here's my amendment. My amendment is that we give a COLA of 2.8, but we do not apply it until the 7th month of the budget year. We do it for half a year. Here's what the effect of that's going to be mathematically. It will have half of 2.8 is 1.4. By the end of the year, this next year, employees will see 1.4% more income. The city would pay 1.4% more to them. So actually, they're going to be a little less than what Mr. Brown's amendment is, of 1.5 for the entire year. But at the end of this coming budget year, they will have the effect of having a 2.8 increase to their salary. Therefore, they will never lose that difference. Next year, the year following, they have the full benefit of that cost of living adjustment, even if they did not realize the full benefit of it during this budget year. So it's going to cost us less money this year, but it will set up the employees to be able to maintain cost of living adjustments and the competitiveness of our pay study. The other thing that I've been through for these times is where there have been years where it seems like we lose officers to Metro for 50 cents an hour. But on the flip side, during really, really tough times when other cities weren't funding COLA, and we built up goodwill that we very much need and always need to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Strauss. Robert, help us out. What's the cost of this?
Which would you like to know, the 1.5 or the 1.4?
Can you do both?
Half, okay. Half year, 1.4 would be $169,000.
Hold on. It's 2.5 for 7 months.
Oh, excuse me.
2.8 for 7 months.
2.8 for 7 months, okay. Well.
No, for the 7th month, starting the 7th month, so 6 months is half the year.
Okay.
Half the year.
So $338,000 $142.
Okay, and then for 1.5 for a full year,
It's $362,300.
okay. Okay, we have a motion to amend the amendment.
Sure, absolutely. So for 2.8 for half year would be 338,142. And 1.5 for a full year is 362,295.
Appreciate that. We have a motion to amend the amendment.
I'll second.
We have a second, okay. Alderman Robertson. I'm sorry, Alderman Robertson, I need to continue clarifying this. I'll come right back to you. We discussed this as I was putting together the budget, and one of the worries that I had, and I continue to have this worry, is that the budget that I proposed required a 10-cent tax increase. We're getting into the neighborhood of where I have my doubts that the board is going to add, gosh, really another 6 cents to that. I can't vote for this tonight, but I'll tell you, when we get to to setting the tax rate, if the board wants to raise the taxes high enough, I will support this on second reading. It was very important to me as I talked with staff that the merit pay increases were there. I did include the COLA because I doubted that that I could get the support to raise taxes beyond that. If the board decides to raise taxes to accommodate these COLA, either one of these COLAs, then I will vote for these. So Alderman Robertson.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about, how we're going to pay for it. So with in considering the amendment by Alderman Sprouse, I would be more in favor of supporting Alderman Brown's, as long as, like you said, Mayor, as long as we can come up with the way to balance the budget, or at least get real close. I'm going to be a stickler on the second reading, and I've got some areas that I'm going to recommend to cut, because I think that we could cut some new employees that we've added to better pay for this $363,000 for the COLA. So do we want to give current employees the 1.5 of the original motion and eliminate a couple of new employees that can help us pay for it? So I will not support the amendment because I don't have, I like the original amendment better. So that's all.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Brown.
I would actually, I appreciate that, Alderman Robertson, I really do, but I do appreciate the amendment because I believe long-term, it's better for our employees. I would hate to put employees on the spot and say which one you prefer, but I was, just so you can just raise your hand and say, give us one of them, that'd be good. But I will support Mr. Sprouse's amendment to my motion.
Do you just want to reword your motion?
Yeah, that'd probably be the easiest.
Okay.
So just, my motion is
2.8 for the second 6 months of the year.
2.8 for the second 6 months of the year, which will be 1.4% basically across the board, but it will.
It's backloaded.
It will reflect long-term in next year.
Alderman Petrelli, are you okay changing your second for that? Alderman Brown is going to withdraw his motion and make his motion the 2.8 for the last 6 months of the year.
Second.
Okay, that's we're good.
Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham.
Just so I'm going to get this clear in my head. The 2.8 would come into effect on January 1st, so that would mean that would affect all of the, any new employees that are coming on board after January 1st. Is that right?
Robert, help me.
Like the pay plan would
Right.
adjust all the way down the line, right?
Right.
Okay, so, yeah, I would be in favor of the 2.8 starting January. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Robert and Peter, if somebody's anniversary date is after January 1st and they get the merit increase, this would affect their merit increase as well, wouldn't it? Because their merit increase is 2.5?
Just would shift their pay grade down. It would, I don't believe it would.
Well,
You saying this
all right, think about this.
Right.
Somebody in the first half of the fiscal year, they get a step increase, so they go up 2.5% of what the salary is right now. But then in January, they get the 2.8.
Okay.
All right, so that step that they're on, it goes up 2.8. Somebody after January, and the tables have already gone up 2.8, and they're going to move up one step, then they're going to realize the same.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Alderman Bolt.
Robert, are we talking about, to go with this of 2.8 for 6 months, are we talking about less than $2 a month per household? Give or take?
For the tax piece.
What would it be?
You're talking
Yeah.
about
What, for taxes?
2
So-
cents something,
Hold on one second, Rob.
I assume you're talking about the tax
Yeah,
about 2 cents.
increase?
It's about 2 cents.
Yes, 2
Yeah.
cents.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bolt. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you. Mr. Robertson, really, it's good. I'm ready to bring the scissors for second reading too. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this meeting about it being a collaborative process. This board through workshop and through committee typically has a little more input in the budget that's presented on first reading than this board has had this year. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of these changes and some amendments we haven't typically had in years past. But I think it's one of those that when we put things in, we need to be prepared to say, what are we going to do to either take it out or to appropriately adjust the tax rate? I'm ready for that conversation. I'm glad that we're thinking about these things as we're making the decision. One thing we have to consider is we do not even have an estimated tax rate. And my guess is it won't be until August that we know what the tax rate, the new certified rate's going to be. So really, any decision, any vote we make between now and then is going to be really just an exercise. It's going to be a number that's going to be a placeholder until we get the real number after the certified rate. And the reason why I say I know it's going to be at least until August is because I have my appeal on July 19th. And if you think about how it has to work through their system and through our system, it could be before this board in August. So I think it's very good that we keep these things in mind, but we have to recognize that we all have values. Each one of us has maybe we share values, we have collective values, and we express them in different ways. And the way that we do that is through our budget. And so when we see a budget that's presented that doesn't have something as simple as a COLA in it, I'm glad that it's being recommended to be added. And that's just something like with the green space we talked about last week. If it's a value that we hold, it's a value we have to be prepared to pay for. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Alderman Sprouse. Alderman Cunningham.
In reference to the tax rate, I was communicating with John Isbell several days ago, and he said that we won't have something probably until the first week of August. So we just need to get on with it, and if we have to do some adjustments at that point in time, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. I was actually looking up a text message to have that exact same comment from him.
Yeah.
So first week in August, thank you. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer Alderman Volt's question regarding the tax, how much does 1 penny on the tax rate or tax increase get us?
Around $180,000.
$180,000 per penny?
162.
162, okay. I just
No,
making
just
sure
per
that we were
household.
all on the same page and everybody knew that. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate that, Alderman Campbell. So this amendment will take our deficit from $620,000 to $958,000. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Kate calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Bolt. Brown. Campbell. Cunningham. Edwards. Hayes. Petrelli. Robertson. Skidmore. Sprouse. Waters. Woodcock. Clary.
No, that passes 12 to 1. We are on the main motion for first reading of ordinance 2019-22. This is an ordinance to adopt a city budget and appropriate funds for fiscal year 2019-20. Alderman Cunningham.
Just repeat where we are with the general fund, Mayor, please.
If you take my proposed budget and add all the amendments we have in there, we have increased revenue, we've increased expenses, and currently we have expenses greater than revenue of $958,000 approximately.
Okay, have we put the hotel motel tax in there?
We have not. We have had some conversations. I know last week said that we get some more information. I have one of the folks who works for the Association for Motels and Restaurants of Tennessee. He's going to come talk to us on Thursday. Anybody's welcome to be there. Parks Director Gilly is going to be there, and any aldermen are welcome to join me if they have some questions. And we're going to try to get something written from him to look over some of the questions that have come up here and ask him how he feels about those.
Well,
Probably Thursday. Yeah.
My concern is that we don't put the revenue in the budget.
It would be an enterprise fund, so it would be a whole separate fund, just like trash, just like drug fund.
So it wouldn't go into the general fund?
No, that's not my proposal. You can put it in the general fund, but you have to make sure that this money is used for tourist activity.
Okay, so it would be treated like the disposal fund, the stormwater,
Exactly.
and et cetera,
Exactly.
except it would have some nice revenue.
You and I keep interrupting Robert. He has something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was
I
going to
didn't
wait.
even see you standing there.
We would need an amendment in order to set up that fund as well, is what I would like to note. Currently, we don't have that fund set up. We have a account set up to receive the money to.
So do we need an ordinance for that?
We can do it in here. We can do it with the budget.
Or
You can
does
do it with this
need to go through
ordinance.
finance or anything, or just? Set it
My,
up.
my intention was before the second reading, and after we get these questions answered, I'll bring it back to you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Perfect, okay. Alderman Brown.
Mr. Manning,
Yes.
what do you, as of today, and this may be, you may have pulled this out of the sky a little bit, ending fund balance for the year?
Give me just one. Projecting ending fund balance around $2.1 million.
Thank you.
Alderman Woodcock.
Say that deficit was with your proposed tax increase?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. All those in favor of ordinance 2019-22, this is an ordinance to adopt a city budget and appropriate funds for fiscal year 2019-2020, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Woodcock. Waters. Sprouse. Skidmore. Robertson. Petrelli. Hayes. Edwards. Cunningham. Campbell. Brown.
Aye.
Bolt. Clary.
No, that passes 12-1. Next, we have first reading of ordinance 2019-23. This is an ordinance imposing a fee in the amount of $252 for the purpose of funding a universal system of domestic garbage collection and disposal. I so move. We have a motion, a second. I would immediately like to offer an amendment to that, since we have reduced a line in there for our pilot recycling program from $165,000 to $48,000. That's less expenses of $117,000.
Page one.
I'm sorry, page 61. And Marshall, are you following along with me? Okay. So on page 61, that bottom, third row from the right, instead of 4,553,944, we can reduce that by $117,000. When you divide that by 18,200, $6.40. Thank you, Arlene. I'm glad you're with me. So what that allows us to do is to reduce the amount imposed by the fee. Instead of $252, it is going to be reduced by $6.40. Let's say $6 to $246. So I'm going to offer that amendment to my motion so that I'm going to ask for imposing a fee of the amount of $246 for funding a universal system of domestic garbage collection and disposal. Would anybody like to second my motion? Alderman Waters seconds that. I'm going to go ahead and speak a little bit more on this. What you've got in front of you on page 61 are really 5 areas that we cover in residential disposal. That is our limb pickup, our disposal, which is by far the biggest one. We depend on a contract to set that price. We have the recycling program, the municipal roll-off bins, and you see that is not a huge expense. That's $5,000. And then the tipping fees. There are several items in there, but I think there are 4 lines that include the salaries for our folks that are part of the limb pickup. Tipping fees are roughly the same, and that is $1.2 million. So those 5 items, one of them, the service, is being cut from twice a week to once a week. We are still producing this. We still anticipate we will produce the same amount of trash. We will still have to pay tipping fees for the same amount of trash. We are not cutting all 5 of those items in half. We're cutting one of those items partially in half. That's why we can't cut our fee directly in half. So we're still going to have a limb pickup crew that is doing 100% of what they did this past year. We're going to have tipping fees that are going to be about 100% this past year. We're going to have municipal roll-off that's going to be about the same, and we're going to have the pilot recycling program that's going to come down. But the reason that we can't just slash what we did this year in half and use it for next year is because of those 5 main items, only one of them partially comes down. Alderman Robertson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the motion, but I have an amendment to your motion that I would like to offer. The reason we can't reduce it 50% is the difference between fixed and incremental cost. The company has fixed cost to provide the garbage service. They got to buy the trucks. There's a lot of office administration, so the fixed cost for the first pickup is going to be higher than the incremental cost of an additional. So that's why I can't cut the rate in half, the trash fee in half. I do support the concept of a trash fee, though, and not rolling it into the tax rate. And here's why. If we roll this into the tax rate, it will increase the tax rate significantly, in my view, of businesses. And I think that anything that would harm businesses, and especially small businesses in this city, that I cannot support. So I continue to support the concept of a separate line item for trash. Although I want the fee to be for trash. So my motion would be, or my amendment to your motion would be to strip out all of the cost other than the collection portion and the disposal portion. And I've run some calculations. I've talked to Robert about it, and my estimate is that this would reduce the trash fee, the annual trash fee that we all pay, to $202, $202. So what this does, this makes the fee for trash service a pure fee. There's no doubt that this is the entire cost for trash collection and also for the dumping or the tipping fee. So with that, I make a motion to amend that would drop that rate to $202 per year.
Why don't I do this? Why don't I withdraw my amendment? Alderman Waters, if you want to withdraw yours? Or withdraw the second?
Yes.
Okay. And then it makes it a little bit cleaner to deal with. And I'm not saying I agree with this. So we have a motion.
And a second.
And a second. Alderman Waters. Alderman Robertson, if I could ask you a question. Are you including in that the reduction of cost of $117,000 that we just did?
No, because I'm not including that in the trash. I think that should be covered under the general fund.
I'm sorry. Okay.
since it's not benefiting but just 800 homes.
Okay, another question for you is, we're taking some things out from residential disposal service. We did not put those into the expenses a few minutes ago.
So if this motion passes the second reading, it will need to be added.
Okay, appreciate that, okay. Anybody wishing to speak on, really, this is the main motion at this point. So, Alderman Edwards.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate and I can respect Alderman Robertson's position as well as Mayor Clary's. I'm kind of the position that it should come out of the general fund, and I know it will affect businesses will be paying for residential trash, but I just don't like the idea of having the separate fees added on to the tax bill. And I don't like that for a number of reasons. One is that, bless you. One is that the, I don't know if there's a CPA in the room. I've spoken with a couple of CPAs, and they stated that that is not a deductible expense, that the garbage fee is not tax deductible. It's only deductible is if it's an actual tax. But I know that a lot of people aren't itemizing anymore because the standard deduction is so high. But that is, I don't know why we have a lot of separate fees. We have a stormwater fee, we have now this garbage collection fee. I don't know why we just don't take it out of the general fund. I think most cities that pay for their garbage, they take it out of the general fund. And I'm trying to run the numbers here, and Robert, I'm going to have to ask for your assistance. I understand that on page 61, it's 4.5 million for all garbage. Am I reading that right? That would cover everything?
Right.
And did you say it's for every penny from the property tax, it's 162,000?
Yes.
Okay.
I misspoke earlier, said 180, but it's 160. That's what I meant to say.
Is it 162?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you do 4.5 million divided by the 162, does that come to 28 cents per $100 of tax assessed value or property assessed value?
It does, 28.11.
And that's for commercial as well as residential?
It is.
Now tell me, and I can't figure this out, and that's not going to be affected when we change the new tax rate, right? Like when we're going to have to adjust it when we get the certified tax rate, right?
The 4.5 million would not change.
Well, I'm talking
so
about the 28 cents
28
that we just calculated. That's not going to be, would that be?
It would
No.
be reduced based on, when we get the tax
Right,
rate back,
right.
what it will tell us is what a penny will generate.
Right.
And so we would reduce the tax rate based on that.
But would it still be 28 cents?
No, be.
So we're just obviously going to go down.
Likely be
equalize.
lower. How much, I couldn't even venture a guess at this moment, but
Yeah, it would definitely be lower, but it would be lower so that the property owner would pay the same amount.
right.
Property owner would pay the same amount.
Right.
Right. So, okay. Well, I support taking it out of the general fund, and I don't know if this is an issue we even need to take up tonight. I don't know if we need to decide this until we get the certified tax rate. I don't see, because it's, I know, but can't the funds still be paid out of the general fund until we decide on the certified tax rate? So I don't know if tonight might be a good night to tackle this, maybe after the budget process, and we just continue to pay the fees out of the general fund. I don't know if I'm ready to make a motion to that effect yet. I'd like to kind of hear what people say about it, and I may make a motion to defer this until after the budget is adopted. And I think that's all I have to say.
Alderman Edwards, thank you. Alderman Sprouse.
I'll wait a minute.
I'm going to address first the amendment, the First Amendment, Mr. Robinson's amendment. And then secondly, I will make a motion for the amendment that Mr. Edwards spoke, so we could have that for discussion. We need to have that on the floor so we can discuss that. I don't typically and easily make pledges on a vote before I come into this room. because I don't know what new information is going to be presented to me, what new options are going to be presented to me. And as anyone who ever follows sports says, there's, it doesn't matter what the line is, there's a reason why they play the game. You have to figure things out. This is an issue on which I have taken a pledge. Back in 2003, after many, many years, I would have to say probably over a decade, but that would precede my time on the board, of the debate between should trash be fee-for-service completely, or should it be completely rolled into the tax rate? And when I mention completely into the tax rate, I want to mention Jack Smith, Alderman of Ward 2 for many, many, many years, who sat in this chair next to me for 2. But every year, Jack would be an advocate for rolling it into the tax rate, every year. And his arguments were that it was regressive, that it wasn't tax deductible, that it's hard to collect. We don't have the same powers to collect it as we do taxes. If someone decides they don't want to pay a fee, we have to go through a different step to collect that than we do if they pay a tax. And then there's one other issue, which wasn't on the table when Jack was on the board, in that we have a senior citizens tax freeze program now that says that if you're a senior citizen and you make below average income in the community, you have the option to have your taxes frozen. That no matter what this city does for the rest of the time you own your property, your tax bill cannot go any higher. That doesn't apply to the tax rate. In 2003, a compromise was offered to this board after all these years of debate. And the compromise was that the disposal portion was removed from the trash fee and rolled into the tax rate. We accordingly lowered the tax fee, but we also raised the tax rate. And I thought it was kind of bittersweet that we came to that compromise the year after Mr. Smith left this board. When we consider rolling it into the trash rate, and I hope we have a serious discussion about this, it's doubly bittersweet, because this is the first time we voted on the issue since Mr. Smith has passed away. The last 2 years, this board, when the level of service was the same provider, twice a week, back door because it was under the contract, service was never going to change. Twice, 2 previous years, this board has been offered a proposal to increase the trash fee by moving disposal out of the general fund and back into the trash fee. Now, this was something that when we moved it, we lowered the tax rate, but we don't see a comparable reduction in the trash rate. I'm sorry, a reduction in the tax rate now that we're moving it. So it's a little bit of a move around a little bit. And so, but the last 2 years, the board has voted to calculate the trash fee on the same formula that we've used since 2003. And we've never had a debate about rolling it in. We've never had a debate about making it fee for service. That compromise is held from 2003 until tonight. Some of the things we talked about in 2003 was the possibility of starting to slowly shift it to where it was a roll-in, because the hope is that the commercial base in Hendersonville in 2003 is considerably different than it is now. We were collecting money based upon property taxes. We're now having finally sales tax revenues higher than our property taxes. That's unheard of. And the argument is that the commercial base broadens, we could start shifting this to what Mr. Edwards was talking about and rolling it over, because it's just a few businesses bearing that. It's a very large and dynamic business community that's supporting that. But here's the one thing for the discussion on Mr. Robinson's amendment. If we were to use the same formula to calculate the trash fee that we have used since 2003, the price would not be $202. The price would be originally tonight $106. Based upon an amendment we've made, changing recycling, the number would be $162. Based upon the pledge that I've made to pass on the savings from the reduction of service to the homeowners Only homeowners pay the trash fee. Businesses don't pay it, apartment dwellers don't pay it, only residential homeowners. I've made that pledge. I'm going to honor that pledge, and that if we're going to have a trash fee, I can only support a trash fee of $162. That's the same calculation. The last 2 years, I couldn't bump up the cost of service without increasing service. This year, I can't cut service without cutting cost. Now, with that, for the purpose of no, I'm going to make an amendment. So the amendment I want to make is what Mr. Edwards spoke. He said he'd like to have a discussion. So I move that we roll the entirety of the trash fee into the tax rate.
Second.
Motion and a second.
What was the motion again?
Motion is to eliminate the residential disposal service as an enterprise fund, and all these services would go into Public Works, and we would cover them with a tax rate and not a residential disposal fee.
We'd be rolling $162. The trash fee would roll as $162. Then the tipping fees and everything else would be on top of that. Yes.
It would go away, the trash fee would go away completely, the entirety.
I'm just trying to get the numbers right. It would
Okay.
go away completely. $162 rolls in. That's a tax increase, 1 cent, whatever that is. And tipping fees, everything would be in the budget.
Hold on one second. I can get you an answer. Robert, what is 4,553,944 divided by 162,000? You want me to do that again?
What was the second number?
Divided by 162,000.
That's 28.10.
28%. Now, here's the magic with that number.
Hold on, go ahead, Alderman Strauss.
The magic with that number, because the fee is a regressive fee, the majority of homeowners will pay less for 28 cents on the tax rate than they would if they were paying a flat fee. That was the first point of Mr. Smith's argument.
Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. So if we do that, that means it would be spread across the whole city, including commercial, apartment complexes.
Mm-hmm.
However, it wouldn't be passed on to the seniors that are on a tax freeze. Is that correct? Anything else that I need to know about that?
We can collect it better.
Okay. All right.
Hold on.
All right. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Cunningham just pointed out my point of those on a fixed income, seniors that have a property tax freeze, they could actually freeze their trash disposal instead of having that fee looming out there for them to have to pay. And that's one of the things I was wanting to point out. And that's why I am in favor of rolling it into the general fund as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Alderman Campbell. I want to say a little bit about this. Is part of the reason that most residences would pay less is because all our businesses would pay more. All the commercial property would pay more. All our industrial property would pay more. Our apartment complexes that don't pay it at all, they would pay more, and they're not going to get additional service at all. Senior citizens right now have a freeze on their, if they so choose and if they apply for it, on their property tax, they do. This portion would be added to that, yes, but they would still, if we defeat this, they would still maintain that freeze across their property tax. That wouldn't change. If they have that on there right now, that doesn't change. It would just be added to the additional 28 cents. I have a real hard time with this if we're saying that we're serious about economic development. We need to listen to the folks that are moving here and that they are dealing with very high property values already. We have folks that are looking at moving out of Davidson County, and they come here and they realize, well, the property values, especially where they want to be, aren't that much better. And if we then add a property tax that is inordinately prohibitive, I think that sends a message that we don't consider ourselves a business community. It sends a message we consider ourselves a residential community. and our values are simply residential, and that we are not serious about attracting businesses. Right now, one of the ways that we sell businesses and recruit businesses here is that we let them know that we are serious about them, and we will, and we want to be a business community, and this is one of the ways that we show it. Alderman Hayes.
I like that it's more transparent. I like that it avoids some of the shell games of having fees. I like that it's not like how the airline sells you on a loss leader flight to Florida and then gives you all these hidden fees. And I'd rather, I like the transparency of just telling people up front, this is what it costs. My only concern is just what the mayor said. I wonder, is there some way we can do it and yet not burden our businesses or commercial that much? I guess that currently the commercial and the businesses, they're already paying our tipping fee.
They pay into the general fund that includes the tipping fee.
Okay, so they are already bearing a portion of our garbage tipping fee. But I am very empathetic towards businesses, and I need some of you creative minds to help me here. Is there some way that we can give them, the commercial, a break on their taxes?
Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Alderman Woodcock.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, we discussed this in Finance Committee, and I asked you specifically about an example of what this increase would do to a business, and I can't remember what example you used, but did you happen to bring that with you today?
Sure. Anyone in mind that you, in particular?
One everyone would know.
Well, I was just going to go somebody with a let's see property value of a pretty high.
Do you have the hospital?
I do.
That's one I would like to hear.
Okay. If you'll give me one moment, I can have that. Well, I'll start actually with someone with a high total property value, if you don't mind, and that'll just be easier to to find here because this isn't the quickest machine. Excuse me. So a business possibly with a property value of around, let's say, $2.6 million. Their assessed value is somewhere in the realm of $1,075,000. And with, this is assuming the 10-cent increase is my calculation currently. The property tax would be about $9,200 for the year. So,
Hold on. Any other questions?
I want to clarify, is that the increase or the total?
that would be the total. So, I'm sorry, it's freezing up on me. I apologize.
I saw the one for Hendersonville Hospital, and that would be an increase of about $13,000.
Right.
An increase of $13,000. I had a conversation with Regina about that.
Do we have an idea of what the revenue is?
I'm sorry? Oh, she didn't share that with me.
Yeah, so.
And Aladdin was about an increase of $11,000.
So here's where I'm at. For 6 years, I've fought this, and I don't know why, looking back. In year 7, I saw the light and supported. In my investigation, I cannot find one benefit to the citizens to keeping it the way that we have it. The only negative that I can find is what we just discussed, that the businesses would have to pay slightly more taxes. And no one likes that, but at the same time, my oath was to protect the citizens, not protect the businesses. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm going to support it tonight. If no one else made the motion, I was going to make one of doing it in over 2 years, but I'll support this tonight. If it doesn't pass, I'll offer my original amendment and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Robertson.
So, Robert, let me make sure. The mayor is proposing a 13% increase in taxes. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah.
13%, not cents,
Right.
percent?
Right.
I want to deal in percentages.
Yeah.
13%, and we're almost $1 million over budget, including his increase. So if we add 28% to that, that comes up to a total increase of 41% in taxes for citizens and businesses of this community. Is that correct?
Oh, goodness gracious.
13% plus 28?
Yeah.
41%?
Yeah.
I talked to a business person today and mentioned that to him. He said he couldn't handle that. I'm afraid, we have been fortunate here in being able to see a steady increase in sales tax revenue. That's benefited everyone, even especially residents, because we've not been able, we haven't been required to pass property tax increases. My fear, and I'm not being Churchillian on this, but my fear is that sales tax will become static or drop as a result of some small businesses that can't handle a 41% increase in taxes, and that we will lose that. So I don't want to do anything that will drive any small business in Hendersonville out. We need their businesses. We need the employees that they hire. And I'm afraid that this will significantly damage the business community, and that so I cannot support a 41% increase in property taxes at this time. So I cannot support that.
Alderman Robertson, thank you. Alderman Edwards.
Robert, help me with these. Well, let me ask you first of all, do you have any idea how much the senior tax freeze will affect this? Like how many, is it negligible? I mean,
It's immaterial almost. It's
Yeah.
about a half a cent in the rate. I've done the calculation with both freezes in it and freezes without it, and the rate increase, or the rate difference is about a half a cent, so $80,000.
Okay.
One way or the other.
And see if my math's correct here. If we have a $200,000 home and it's a 28 cents on the $100, does that come to a $140 tax increase per year? Oh, I did.
Go ahead. Good, Robert.
One moment. I apologize. You said $200,000 home?
Yeah, just an example.
Mm-hmm. All right. And, well, I'll just do the quick math, sorry.
Well, what I just did 200,000 times 25%, and then that divided by 100.
Is that with the new rate?
Well, I just did 28 cents. We said it would increase it by 28 cents.
Yeah, 28.1, I believe.
Okay, so that comes to about $140 per year for a $200,000 home.
As a difference, yes.
And so isn't the garbage fee $292 now?
Yes.
Okay,
$292.
so somebody with a $200,000 home would save $152 per year.
Minus 2. Yes, sir, you're
Okay,
correct.
so that's more than half. We've cut their garbage fee in half, and they would save more than half, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I wonder if we could exempt nonprofits from this, because I see I see David Mooney in the back. I know he's with the VFW, which and I just wouldn't want to see the VFW if this goes through, have to pay for this.
You're ready to
Oh, they're all from home. Okay.
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
Okay, my bad. I'm new to the game here, so, okay.
Appreciate the sentiment.
Good thought.
Well, yeah, and I just don't know, 28 cents?
28.1.
I just don't know, I don't know if this will really keep businesses from coming here. I just don't think a business is going to look and say, well, they increase taxes for the residential garbage, I'm just going to take my business elsewhere. I mean, we still have a pretty low tax rate, and I don't I just don't think any businesses are going to leave because of it, and this is against my economic best interest as a business owner. I'm not going anywhere because of this. I mean, I still support this, and I hope it goes through. Thank you very much.
I want to clarify something a little bit. Alderman Robertson, I think you were wrong. You mentioned 28% is actually 28 cents, which is increase, which is about a 36% increase. So if we do the math again, the 13% I proposed, the 36% this would cause, as well as the 6% that, I'm sorry, as well as, about an additional 6% to cover the $1 million deficit, this would be a property tax increase of 55%.
Thank you for correcting me.
I appreciate that. Alderman Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor.
That'd be 35 cents.
I'm not sure if I support this or not. I'm trying to be sensitive to our business community, and I'd like to see the overall effect, especially of the small businesses, because I think the larger businesses will be able to absorb that. So if I can get some examples, not tonight, but next reading on this, of some of the smaller businesses, because the Streets of Indian Lake, they're trying to get back on their feet now. They did a lot of investment in that community, the boutiques, the beauty salons, people that are more the independent business owners in the community. I think the larger businesses will be able to absorb the difference, over a period of a year. But I'm more concerned about the small businesses. And small businesses create more than 50% of the jobs in this country. So that's my concern. So before I can support this, and I'm probably going to abstain tonight, I'd like to see the effect of that. Thank you.
Alderman Cunningham, thank you. Alderman Edwards, thank you for your comments a second ago. Alderman Sprouse.
Thank you. I think y'all can now appreciate the value of the 2003 compromise, because we've had in 15, 20 minutes a very intense discussion that this city had had every budget year, year after year after year. In a couple of things, when we're talking about math, not only is someone who lives in a $200,000 house would save money over their current trash fee, but a person who lives in a $400,000 house would save money over the current trash fee. Now, we recognize that that service has been down, but you would see a net reduction. I agree completely that we need to be business friendly. I think that that's probably some other portions of the budget that we need to discuss about our contribution and investment in the ECD and the actions and what we do and the involvement of city staff. But we have to also recognize that businesses are already treated differently from a tax standpoint, paying a different tax rate. Well, they pay the same rate, but based on a different percentage of their assessed value. There could be some examples. I want to know about the mom and pop shops, and I don't want to sound cold and heartless, but a $13,000 bill to a hospital. $15,000 bill to a hospital. I've seen bills larger than $15,000 from that hospital. And I'm not begrudging them for the services that they provide. And then when I get that bill, I wonder, okay, what's going to happen when the doctor bills? And so I think we just need to look at things in perspective. And after decades of saying if we build the business community and build the base, we can transfer and start to limit. Because if you want to talk about people are going to spend, we've heard for decades that if you put more money into people's hands, they're going to spend more money. On the like side, Mrs. Burns talks a lot about recycling. But there's actually 3 R's, with one of them being recycling. The other one's reduce. And when I, as a consumer, look to purchase, I try to purchase goods that use less packaging, that use less material, that provide less waste. Except for something that grows in my yard or comes out of my dog, I don't throw anything away that I don't buy from a business. And if we need to have encouragement for reducing the waste stream and the amount of packaging, and it's been talked about using the styrofoam trays when we go to the butcher and have them use paper instead of styrofoam. That's part of the burden of the cost that they have, not that they are throwing away the trash, but they have and I'm not, it's just natural. They have a role in generating at the head of the waste stream. And I think we should all have a better discussion about reducing the waste stream, not just recycling. Thank you.
Alderman Sprouse, thank you. We have an amendment that's been properly seconded, and that is to eliminate our disposal services enterprise fund and move all those costs into the covered by the general fund, and have those services provided in our Public Works Department. Did I say that close to correct?
Not provided in the Public Works Department, they would still be provided by the contractor.
It would be in the Public Works budget?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Bolt,
For now, aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Cunningham,
Abstain.
Edwards,
Aye.
Hayes,
Aye.
Petrelli,
No.
Robertson,
No.
Skidmore,
I'm gonna go aye.
Sprouse, Waters,
No.
Woodcock, Clary.
No. It passes 8-4 to 1. Next, okay, so we're back on the main motion, which would be, at this point, we would need to set that at 0.
Well, just defer consideration, there's no point in passing it.
Do we have to? Let's hear from our city attorney.
Okay, what is the question exactly?
Is,
Because this was set imposing a fee, and you just voted to not impose that fee, so, with that amendment. So, I mean, you could pass it with, as the mayor says, a 0 amount, if you want to, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to pass a 0 fee. And what we can do is, just in case it were to come back on second reading, we can keep it, we can put it on the agenda again next meeting for consideration, because some people will want to think about it, and then we can always bring it back, Mayor, if we need to.
we still have to pass a main motion, though, don't we? Because we just passed an amendment.
Probably a good idea, vote on the main motion, which is to eliminate the trash fee.
Okay.
Just for clarity, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So, Alderman Sprouse, are you making an amendment that first reading of 2019-23 is an ordinance imposing a fee in the amount of $0 for the purpose of imposing a funding universal system of domestic garbage collection and disposal?
Yes, as long as it reflects the previous amendment that we.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
yeah.
It's being rolled into the general tax rate.
Yes, sir, I make that
Yeah.
motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
No. Sorry. I am very much gauging very poorly whether or not we need a roll call tonight. Let's call the roll, please.
Woodcock,
Yes to set it to 0.
Yes.
Waters, Sprouse, Skidmore, Robertson,
No.
Petrelli, Hayes,
Aye.
Edwards,
Aye.
Cunningham,
No.
Campbell,
Aye.
Brown,
Yes.
Bolt,
Yes.
Clary.
No. So that passes 8-5. Next, okay, now we've amended this twice now. We still need to vote on ordinance 2019-23 as amended. Okay, I guess you have to call the roll.
That's what you just voted on. Because the amendment made it 0, and that was the vote. That was the effect of the amendment.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's what we're trying to do.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, we've passed it, thank you. Okay, now we're on first reading of ordinance 2019-24. I got bit by that a couple months ago, so I'm being extra careful. This is an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation in the city of Hendersonville. I will so move, and that was, I can't remember what it was.
It doesn't make a lot of difference.
Well, I will so move. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Alderman Sprouse.
I think that I want to take.
I'm sorry. It's my motion. I'd like to speak on it
Please
first.
do.
Okay. As I mentioned a second ago, is that John Isbell let us know the other day that he anticipates that all the appeals will be finished in late July, and he feels like we will have a certified tax rate in early August. The reason that we go ahead and do this, similar to what some other cities do, is we get the first reading out of the way and set what would it be if nothing changes. We know something's going to change. I totally get that. But this will allow us to make that final change with one reading, which is important because suppose it doesn't happen in August, suppose it's later in August or early September, it really gets us in a bind when it comes to sending out tax bills. That's why I proposed it, and that's why I put it on the agenda for first reading. Alderman Strauss.
Thank you. I support what's before us, and just to give a little bit of insight, I had a conversation with one of our state representatives today about the situation that we're in with not having a tax rate at a time when we need to set that. The county needs to have that. He is going to look into options to pursue legislation that would prescribe a schedule for the reappraisal process so that it would be finished in time for legislative bodies to have that information. And I think that I will probably be bringing something to General Committee, a resolution endorsing any legislation to that effect, and would ask the county to do the same. What I would like to do is respect the process and do this as quickly as possible, since we don't know what the actual tax rate's going to be. There's a very strong possibility that the current certified rate plus the mayor's proposed tax increase, once we get through the appraisal process, if that is the final rate, would cover the extra revenue at this level, at that tax rate, would cover everything that we've added to the budget. And instead of playing with pretend numbers, I say we go ahead and pass what we have before us and adjust it as better information comes on, with the very real possibility that this number that's before us could be a good number. So with that, I call it a question, if that's okay. I withdraw the thing to call to question.
I'm going to ask Robert to work on something, and then we'll go. Robert, can you figure out to make this a zero balance, what the tax increase would be required considering all the amendments that we've passed? Thank you. Alderman Brown.
We need to be prepared to pass a continuation budget next meeting to continue through August or until we get a certified tax rate.
We can pass a budget and we can pass the expenses before a certified tax rate, which the city has done in the past.
Okay, but we have to move through the month of July, which is in the next fiscal year.
We don't collect any taxes in July. We're not going to start collecting taxes till
Okay.
October. So we've got till October to set the tax rate.
Thank you, John.
Well,
Alderman Brown,
have to
anything
get
else?
the bills out, but you know what I mean.
Okay. Alderman Edwards.
Okay, so are we going to defer the second reading of this ordinance until we get the certified tax rate?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, appreciate that. Alderman Cunningham.
So if everything stands the way it is now, the 85.8 cents tax rate, does that include the garbage, the trash fee and all that? What would that be? What would that be then?
What would the rate be?
Yeah,
1.15, I believe.
1.15?
Yes.
Does that include the 6 cents I'm sorry, go ahead, Alderman Cunningham.
Does that include the 6 cents?
To cover the $1 million deficit.
It does not. It does not.
Okay.
Okay, so what would it be if we included the $1 million deficit plus
It would be
all the trash, the $4.5 million trash?
It'd be 1.21.
You mean $1.21?
$1.21, yes.
Okay. If everything stayed the way it was, but we know that it's not because the assessment is so much higher, so this rate would go down.
Right.
So, I mean, we really don't know where we stand with this. All right, well, that was just a question. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Alderman Cunningham. Alderman Strauss, did you have something else?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Alderman Robertson.
So remind me again what we're voting on.
The motion on the table is for a tax rate of 85.8 cents. Robert tells us to cover the two previous ordinances, that it would need to be at $1.21.
And what percentage would that be, Robert?
Just one moment, apologies.
We're asking Robert to do math multiple times.
He needs one of those big 20-pound Ron Minix calculators.
What did you say?
Oh. I'll.
You're not amending this to $1.21, right?
Not so far.
Yeah. 30%.
Yeah, 30.
30%.
Yeah.
So to go from 75.8 to 121 would raise it 30%. Am I saying that correct? Yes.
Yep. From point
No,
758
no,
divided
no, I thought
by
that's not right.
1.21.
Maybe 32.
Check that.
That's
excuse
not
me.
right.
I thought just the garbage, increase the garbage would be 30-something percent. It would be 28 cents, but percent, I'm at, okay.
Right. Yeah. I was doing the millions, that's where I went wrong.
I come up with a 75.8 to 121, I get a 60% increase.
I was getting 38, the inverse of that.
So
62%, yeah, okay, you're right.
Okay, because
That's-
currently it's at 75.8. To cover everything that we've just done in the previous two ordinances would take it to 121. Am I right about that, Robert?
Yep.
Okay, which would be a 59.6% increase.
Okay, so 60%, I just,
Yeah.
citizens understand that better when I tell them than, so 60% increase in taxes. Thank you. 60.
60 cents.
back out the garbage fee.
Right.
Well, yeah, you got to back that out. No
It's-
garbage fee, I understand. No garbage fee.
So we have nobody, Alderman Robertson, anything else? Yeah, I'm in the situation that I have to vote against, or at least figure out the ordinance that, that I propose, in that it doesn't cover the two ordinances that we previously passed. All those in favor of ordinance 2019-24, this is an ordinance fixing the rate of taxation for the city at 85.8 cents, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, please say no.
No.
Please call the roll.
Bolt,
So right now, we're voting on whether or not the tax rate should be 85.8 cents. Voting yes means 85.8, voting no means we come back.
I need more information.
Mayor Robert has said that we need $1.21.
To cover the, you're right. But nobody has made that, nobody has made that amendment to my motion. I would anticipate that some of the folks that made amendments to increase our expenses would do that. Alderman Sprouse.
Just to point out, we run the very real possibility that if we, after reappraisal, that if we have a 85.8% tax rate, we would have to vote again for that rate, but it would bring in additional revenue because of a potential, we're looking at evaluations going up 20, 30% within the county. So a lot of within the city. So a lot of this could be picked up, the inflation of services and increased cost of manpower and things like that could be easily covered by the increased value, the inflation of the property that's being served.
The last conversation, I appreciate that, Alderman Sprouse. The last conversation I had with John Isbell was he thought that our property values were going up between 30 and 34%. So, Alderman Robertson.
I understand, Alderman Sprouse, what you're saying, but I think state law requires that local governments equalize the rate And so I guess I'm looking at, it's still going to increase. It might provide us a little cover, but it's still going to increase property rates for businesses and residents, that larger amount than what they would get if we didn't. So that was my issue.
Alderman Strauss.
That's why, no matter what we do, we will have to vote again after a new certified rate is presented to us. The last time we had a certified rate, last time we went through a reappraisal, we actually had to look at the issue of properties. We were told by the assessor that property values went down. We worked off an estimated number. The estimated number that ends up the estimated number was a little different, very close, but a little different to the certified rate. We kept the number that we passed. We still had to vote again, and it was maybe $100,000, couple $100,000 difference. We ate that just to keep the new certified rate. But no matter what we do tonight, no matter what we do on second reading, we will have to vote again after certified rate is presented to us for any rate that we adopt.
If we do not raise this rate tonight, and I'm not going to propose that, if we do not raise this rate tonight, there's no way I can consider seriously any amendment to increase expenses a week from now. You just can't take it seriously. If we're not going to fund what we have just increased, and there's no reason, it just, Alderman Brown.
5 to 11, we may make it for one, actually, I don't know. I don't want anybody to take this lightly, but this vote is really irrelevant. Absolutely 100% irrelevant. We have a 75% tax rate right now. My house went up 24%, so I guess I'm one of the less fortunate ones. I didn't go up 34%, and which I'll be glad for, I guess, in the long run. But the certified tax rate will not be here till the 1st of August. I think those of us who've been around a while can make a pretty good stab in the dark and say it's going to be around 50, 55 cents. So you can kind of figure out what happens after that. Yes, we're going to have a tax increase. 2, we've got to get up where we pay for the expenses that we set tonight. We pretty well agreed as a majority to set those expenses what they are. We could go back and cut some of those expenses in a week, but we still don't have a certified tax rate, so this vote was still more or less, we just got to do it because we've got to do it. It could be 1 cent, and we could be in a deficit of $20 million, but we have to pass a vote. So this is really irrelevant until we get to August when we have that tax rate. Then we can adjust it, set it, and we can sit here and argue all night, but it's irrelevant. We just got to vote on it and move on.
Alderman Brown, thank you. All those in favor of a tax rate of 85.8 cents, please signify by saying aye when Kay calls your name. Those opposed, please say no.
Woodcock. Waters.
No.
Sprouse.
Aye.
Skidmore. Robertson. Petrelli. Hayes. Edwards. Cunningham.
No, waiting more information.
Campbell.
Yes. Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Bolt.
Aye.
Clary.
Aye. That passes 9-4. We have no other business. Alderman Strauss. We have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please say no. We're adjourned.